These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Revolutionary Love by Michael Lerner, a political manifesto to heal and transform the world. This is from the introduction. We Earthlings need to build a fundamental change of consciousness into ourselves and in every part of our national and global society in order to achieve the economic and political changes necessary to prevent the destruction of the life support system of Earth, in order to end global and domestic poverty and wealth inequality, to defeat racism, sexism, homophobia, and other forms of xenophobia, to protect human rights, to achieve social, economic, and environmental justice, and to achieve lasting global peace. This new consciousness is possible and can emerge through embracing revolutionary love, the struggle for a caring society, and a new bottom line in all our economic, political, legal, educational, and cultural institutions. This manifesto is written to show you how this can happen and how you can help make it possible. Liberal and progressive movements need to move beyond a focus on economic entitlements and political rights to embrace a new discourse of love, kindness, generosity, and awe. These are not some new agey smile and be nice formula or let's get into self-transformation before we change society kind of thinking. I'm calling for both our American and global societies to embrace a new bottom line so that every economic, political, societal, and cultural institution is considered efficient, rational, and/or productive, not according to the old bottom line of how much these institutions maximize money, power, or ego, but rather how much they maximize love and generosity, kindness and forgiveness, ethical and environmentally sustainable behavior, social and economic justice. This new bottom line seeks to enhance our capacity to transcend a narrow utilitarian or instrumental way of viewing human beings and nature, so that we respond to other people as embodiments of the sacred, instead of thinking of them primarily in terms of how much they can serve our interests. And also so that we can respond to nature not solely as a resource for human needs, but rather through awe, wonder, and radical amazement at the beauty and grandeur of this universe. I call this new consciousness revolutionary love, and its goal is to create the caring society, caring for each other and caring for the earth. The vehicle to create this new consciousness we will call the Love and Justice Movement, and eventually the Love and Justice Party. The revolutionary possibility of love is the kind of love that breaks through those distortions of consciousness that make it difficult to implement a national environmental policy or to end the many forms of oppression that permeate our world. To really embrace revolutionary love requires us to develop a strategy way beyond anything currently being given serious attention in the media, the political parties, and even many of the social change movements. And it requires us to move beyond what seems realistic in terms of the contemporary frame of discourse. Yet there is no alternative if we're to solve the environmental crisis and prevent our society in the coming decades from moving further and further into reactionary nationalism and repression of our own humanity. We need a global mobilization of billions of people to solve the problem, and this manifesto outlines the first steps to making possible such a mobilization. To understand the urgency, let's consider our current environmental crisis. In 1992, thousands of scientists issued a collective statement warning of the impending dangers to the life support system of planet Earth. 25 years later, in December 2017, 15,364 scientists from 184 countries signed a new statement that reads, in part, "Since 1992, with the exception of stabilizing the stratospheric ozone layer, humanity has failed to make sufficient progress in generally solving these unforeseen environmental changes, and alarmingly, most of them are getting far worse. Especially troubling is the current trajectory of potentially catastrophic climate change due to rising greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels and agricultural production, particularly from farming ruminants for meat consumption. Moreover, we have unleashed a mass extinction event, the sixth in roughly 540 million years, wherein many current life forms could be annihilated or at least committed to extinction by the end of this century. Humanity is now being given a second notice. We are jeopardizing our future by not reining in our intense but geologically and demographically uneven material consumption, and by not perceiving continued rapid population growth as a planetary driver behind many ecological and even societal threats. By failing to adequately limit population growth, reassess the role of an economy rooted in growth, reduce greenhouse gases, incentivize renewable energy, protect habitat, restore ecosystems, curb pollution, halt defaunation, and constrain invasive alien species, humanity is not taking the urgent steps needed to safeguard our imperiled biosphere." End of quote from the scientists. And in October, well, it continues. The book is Revolutionary Love by Rabbi Michael Lerner.
Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, happy Thursday. Boy, what a day. Michael Mann, the climate scientist, is going to be with us in our third hour today. It's the West is on fire. And there's a new report out that by 2024, that's 3.5 years from now, we may hit that 2.5 degrees Celsius global warming threshold, or 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming threshold that we're supposed to keep below 3 years from now. So we're going to be talking about that. And in our second hour, Professor Richard Wolff is here. Just some amazing stuff that the Fed is up to, basically picking winners and losers, giant corporations as the winners, medium and small companies, small-sized companies who are not able to access lines of credit with the Fed, the big losers. This is the K-shaped recovery. We'll be talking about that in our second hour with Professor Wolff. But I want to start out with, did you, I'm saying nobody would have expected that we would pay such a steep price for electing a mentally ill criminal as president. But, there were a few of us who were saying it's going to get real bad. I don't think anybody expected 200,000 Americans would be dead by the time the Trump presidency or the first term of it came to an end. I don't think, most Americans expected that a foreign country would again be allowed to encouraged to meddle in our elections. I don't think that most Americans realized that by the fourth year of the Trump presidency, as he shut down climate regulations and encouraged the fossil fuel industry to pour more and more and more carbon into the atmosphere, that a dozen states in the West would be on fire before fire season. I mean, the worst of fire season is like, starts in a week. I mean, we faced four major threats, and I don't think most of the world thought when Donald Trump was elected president that he would, single-handedly start a whole brand new nuclear arms race. But those are the major threats we were facing when he was elected: climate change, COVID-19, we didn't know about, but it would happen on his watch. The Russian election meddling, and the worldwide nuclear arms race. And Donald Trump has lied to us about all four of those things. And as a result, today we're facing a fifth crisis, which is an economic crisis, because he lied to us about this stuff. He lied to us about climate change. He took billions from FEMA to give to unemployed people in Texas. That money ran out today, by the way. The $300 a week that Trump said, we'll give you $300 a week if Congress won't do it. Well, it was out of FEMA money, and only like 5 or 6 states said, okay, we'll do this, because everybody knew you burned through FEMA money. And here you've got half the country on fire, and there's no FEMA money. And the other half of the country is being hit by hurricanes and derecho, whatever they're called. These giant, I mean, this is such a new phenomena, it's hard to pronounce. It's insane. But, he lied to us about climate change and took that money out of FEMA. And he said, he lied and said that the forest fires in California originally, this was a year or so ago, that the serious forest fires, now they're all over the West. They're not caused by climate change. That's not climate change. That's a hoax. That's just a hoax made up by the Chinese. That's what Donald Trump had to say. No, really, the reason why the state of California is on fire is because the Governor Newsom didn't take Donald Trump's wise advice and send volunteers out into the forest with rakes to rake up all those pine needles and all that scrub. And just, clean the forest for. After all, that's what they do in Finland, isn't it? And then the president of Finland comes out and says, I never told him that. But, here we are. Why is he saying this? Obviously, to satisfy his fossil fuel donors, Charles Koch and his buddies, the guys who, made their fortune with oil and coal and natural gas, the frackers and everything else. And now Americans are dying and losing their homes in a dozen Western states. We heard from our governor here yesterday in Oregon, Kate Brown, who's doing the best she can. I mean, she's been a really good governor through this crisis. I am so impressed by our governor here in Oregon. And she came out and pointed out that 6 or 7 cities, towns, here in Oregon were completely destroyed yesterday in these fires. And they did not have the person power, they didn't have the people to do search and rescue. They've got everybody trying to stop the fires where they are and stop them from going into these towns. And so she, basically what she said is, get ready. So far we know that there's 2 dead people in Oregon, maybe 3. But when we get into these towns that have burned to the ground and start looking through the remains of these houses, we're going to find a lot of dead bodies. And by the way, that's not just Oregon. That's happening in Washington State. It's happening in California. It's happening in Utah. It's happening in Colorado. It's happening in Nevada. It is happening all over the West. Number one. Number two, he lied, we have now learned from Bob Woodward, about the severity of COVID-19. He knew back in January how deadly this disease was, that it could strike even young children, that it was transmitted through the air and therefore could be stopped by a mask. But instead of issuing a warning, instead of saying, look out, instead of saying, here's what we know about this, instead of putting into place a national mask mandate, Donald Trump lied to us and said, oh, it's just like the flu. And it's a hoax coming out of the Democratic Party. He then spent months lying to his supporters, to his base, packing them into events where he was, at a nice, safe distance, but they weren't. knowing that some of them were going to end up like Herman Cain, dead. He has repeatedly warned the Russians and others were attempting, or he was told, right? He was repeatedly warned that Russia and other countries were attempting to manipulate our election from activity on Facebook and other news and social media venues, hacking into our election systems. Not only did he lie to Americans about this, but this week we learned that he ordered his illegal toady at DHS, Chad Wolff, who is no longer legally the head of the Department of Homeland Security, but he's still there, to order those people below him at DHS to hide this information about Russian interference in our elections from the American public. And finally, he blithered to Bob Woodward about a top secret new nuclear weapons program. I mean, once that information was published, like yesterday, a new nuclear arms race just got kicked off. China and Russia, you think they're not building new nukes to respond to our nukes? And this probably has something to do with the several different nuclear-related treaties that Trump walked away from during his presidency that got virtually no attention in the press. And so now the world is at greater risk of nuclear war and a nuclear winter that could drive the human race extinct. And now we've got a fifth crisis. Because of the way he screwed up COVID and the climate crisis, our economy has collapsed more severely than any time since the Republican Great Depression. And by the way, and this is what we'll be talking to Professor Wolff about in the next hour, the only companies that are being meaningfully bailed out are publicly traded companies, giant corporations. They can draw against the Fed's credit line. And meanwhile, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and people all across the country are losing their homes, they're losing their life savings, and they're losing their hope. This is the doing serious damage to the American dream and American exceptionalism. And if Trump succeeds, this could be the end of democracy all over the world. So the big question now are whether the domestic terrorists Trump has activated will realize that he's been playing them for suckers, or will he successfully reach out to them and ratchet up racially motivated violence?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Is that going to be his big October surprise? Start a civil war? What do you think? We'll be there. And just to add to this, I mean, Trump saying to Bob Woodward about race. Bob Woodward said, you and I are both about the same age. We're both wealthy guys. Woodward's not a billionaire, obviously. Well, frankly, neither is Trump. But basically, we're both wealthy white guys. What are your thoughts, Donald Trump, on, he didn't use the word plight, but the situation, whatever I forget the exact word he used, but whatever it may be, of black people, in particular, people of color in the United States who are facing, discrimination and hate and all this kind of stuff on a daily basis. And Trump's response is, wow, Bob, you really drank the Kool-Aid. Really? In other words, Trump is trying to say, well, there's no real race problem in America. Everything's good. So this is the BS that the racist Republicans have been trying to sell us, well, basically since Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater was like, oh, I'm not opposed to black people moving in next door to me. I just think that states should have the power to make it illegal. It's like, it's about states' rights, don't you know? It's not about race. And, and truth be told, there were, that was characterized in the American media as a principled stand back in 1964. But anyhow, Trump just tweeted, just a few minutes ago, he tweeted, the Democrats never even mentioned the words law and order at their national convention. That's where they're coming from. If I don't win, now the next two words are not here in this tweet, but they should be. And those two words should be white people. If I don't win, white people, America's suburbs will be overrun, that word in all caps, with low-income projects. What does that mean? Black people. anarchists, agitators, looters, and of course, quote, friendly protesters, close quote. I mean, this is like George Wallace. It's mind-boggling. Anyhow, pick up your phone calls here. Dave in Las Vegas. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, Mr. Hartman. Yeah, Trump keeps falling back on this. Every time he's cornered about the coronavirus crisis is that, I put a travel ban from China, right? That analogy is like Neville Chamberlain trying to claim that he prevented World War II by appeasing Adolf Hitler.
No, I think that's more like Trump claiming that, that he shot a 40 when he shot 100 at golf. I mean, it's a lie, but it's not. I'm not sure. Why are you drawing a parallel to Chamberlain? I guess that's my question.
The analogy is, it seemed like a good, just out of my frustration, it just, it seemed like a good, yeah, I can't hard to describe, but it seemed like...
No, I get it. Well, I'm guessing probably, what you're pointing out is that, Trump basically pointing to that travel ban is his attempt to say, well, no, I did try to save some American lives, when in fact he didn't. And, right. Neville Chamberlain, though, I think, you go back and read the history of Neville Chamberlain, he was actually a decent guy who got snookered by Hitler. He believed that he could make that happen. I don't think that there's any good intention in Trump at all. But Dave, I get, good try. Keep it up. Look forward to your next call. Dave, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. You can help America return to democracy by telling friends and family how to listen to this and other great progressive programs. Tag You're It. So Donald Trump just tweeted a white power message warning white people in the suburbs that black people from low-income projects were going to be moving into their neighborhood and they would be looting. Honest to God, he just tweeted this. The guy who said to Bob Woodward, "Oh, Bob, you're drinking the Kool-Aid if you think black people have it rough in America." He just tweeted, "The Democrats never even mentioned the words law and order at their national convention. That's where they're coming from. If I don't win America's suburbs," that would be, America's white suburbs, because we have lots of black suburbs in this country now, too. "America's suburbs will be overrun with low-income projects, anarchists, agitators, looters, and, of course, friendly protesters." This is the guy who lied to us for, 7 months about the coronavirus, and now is telling us that the reason he lied to us was not so that he could, get all the way to Election Day without having to deal with a crisis, which obviously is what he thought he was doing, but instead because he was trying not to panic people. I don't want to panic people, but look out, black people are coming to the white suburbs. It's pretty friggin' breathtaking. Meanwhile, virus cases rise among school-aged children in Florida. The state orders some counties to keep data hidden. That's the headline in the Seattle Times today. 1 month into the forced reopening of Florida's schools, dozens of classrooms, along with entire schools, have been temporarily shuttered. Infections among school-aged children have jumped 34% in Florida. Ron DeSantis has ordered counties to stop publishing their information. Florida Department of Health reported 10,513 children under age 18 had tested positive. And he ordered states to stop publishing, or the counties rather, and the school districts stop publishing their information. So as a result, they're putting up secret secret Facebook pages and anonymous Twitter accounts. After the Duval County, this is from the Seattle Times article, after the Duval County School District in Northeast Florida published a coronavirus dashboard during the first week of school, the state ordered it shut down. In Orlando, the Orange County Health Department was told September 3rd to stop releasing information about coronavirus cases tied to their schools. The Florida Department of Health quickly removed their own school coronavirus information from public view. Martin County now has a 23% positivity rate for school-aged children. For every 100 kids that they test, 23 of them are testing positive. Glades County, west of Lake Okeechobee, has a positivity rate of nearly 30% since schools reopened. Florida, across the state, has 652,000 cases, 12,200 people dead. In Suwannee County, small rural county in northern Florida, under age 18, coronavirus positivity rate of 21.7%. But don't worry, the governor's just not going to let you know about it. Meanwhile, a whistleblower, Brian Murphy, over at the Department of Homeland Security, this is the guy who was the chief of the Department of Homeland Security's intelligence branch. The most senior intelligence officer in the Department of Homeland Security. Chad Wolff, Kristen Nielsen, and Ken Cuccinelli, on various occasions, all came to this guy and said, stop talking about Russia interfering in our elections, because he was issuing reports, because they're actually monitoring what's going on. And sure enough, it's happening. Stop talking about that. It makes the president uncomfortable. And stop talking about the threat of white supremacists. White supremacists have killed more people in this country in the last decade than Muslim terrorists, than pretty much anybody else who's politically motivated. It's a major problem. And this whistleblower is saying, yeah, and we're messing with our own intel. I mean, this is deeply, deeply wrong. And then a DHS agent comes out and says that he was forced to fake data on terrorists coming across the U.S.-Mexico border. This was back 2 years ago when Trump was trying to scare us all while he was, he's the let's not panic the people guy, was saying, there's caravans of brown people, rapists and murderers coming to America. And he was forcing this guy through, in discussions with Secretary Nielsen, Mr. Wolff, and Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Marquardt, to say that there's a lot of known terrorists or suspected terrorists coming through the southern border. I mean, this is mind-boggling. This is absolutely mind-boggling. Oh, and it gets even more bizarre. The White House today, this is brand new, the U.S. government, on Monday of next week, they're scrambling to do this. It was announced today. On Monday of next week, they're going to stop all screening of inbound passengers coming into the United States from foreign countries where we were screening them for COVID-19. We are the COVID-19 paradise, after all. We have 1/4 of all the cases in the world. We're 4% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's COVID cases and 25% of the world's COVID deaths right here at home. And they're going to shut this down. All screenings and rerouting of select international flights will cease at exactly 12:01 a.m. on Monday, September 14th. That's 1 minute after midnight, Sunday night, Monday morning. The orders to cease pre-screening operations came from the White House with strict orders to keep the information secret, says Jana Winter, writing for Yahoo News. And meanwhile, and this is mind-boggling, I'll share this story with you right after the break, and then I'll pick up your phone calls, about, where is all this going? What do we do about this? How do we respond to it? What the hell? But in Italy, the town of Bergamo, where they had, hundreds of deaths and tens of thousands of cases, the town of Bergamo is calling people who have survived the virus to say, how are you doing? It's been a month now. The results will shock you. I'll share that with you right after the break. You're
listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And then, as I said, we'll pick up your phone calls. We'll be right back. It's 28 minutes past the hour. Well, it's a very special, beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day today. The Free Speech TV Fund Drive is rolling along. We need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help, as is the case a couple of times a year. It does cost money, actual cash, to keep the electrons flowing from our studio to theirs, from their studios up to the satellite, from the satellite down to you. It's not cheap. And Free Speech TV is a listener-supported or viewer-supported television network. It's I don't know that there's any others out there outside of PBS, but perhaps there are. But this is the place where progressives can get good, solid progressive news and information. Well, really, where Americans can get good, solid news and information. In fact, Americans of all kinds can get good, solid, of all political persuasions, can get good, solid news and information right here on Free Speech TV from a variety of hosts. And, we go from relatively straight news reporting to, just straight up opinion on this program and on a lot of other programs here on Free Speech TV. It's an extraordinary platform, Free Speech TV. And, the guys who started it and the people who have supported it and who run it right now have done such a great job all these years. We really need to, keep it going. It's just like we can't let this network die, particularly now, but in general, we can't let this network die. So there's a group of premiums. If you call now, 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, there's a great group of premiums you can pick from. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the sticker that says Fight for Democracy, or the stainless steel straws, a set of 3 of them. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV webcam cover. There's a tote bag, really nice tote bag, that paraphrases Margaret Mead's old saying. Remember, she said, as I recall, this is from memory, never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. It's my recollection that was her quote. This one says, change never happens from the top down, which is the same sentiment, and a good solid one. It's a nice tote bag, pick up your groceries. There's all kinds of things you can use tote bags for. Or with a $50 gift, you can get the Free Speech TV postcard pack, and a lot of great little slogans, and jot a quick note to a friend or neighbor or compatriot or fellow democracy warrior or whatever it may be, and here you go, these postcards, Fight for Democracy postcards. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of either the Thom Hartmann mug, and it's a nice porcelain, tall mug, or the Free Speech TV hat, and it comes in black and, with the Free Speech TV logo, and these are both useful and they make great gifts. In fact, a lot of this stuff makes great gifts. So if you know somebody who's got a birthday coming up or an anniversary, or just you want to send them a, hey, I'm thinking of you gift or whatever, here's a great place to get your stuff. With a $100 gift, you get 2 of the Free Speech TV face masks that suggest we can grow from this crisis. And frankly, I think we can. I think we're all learning a lot right now from this crisis. I think the country is waking up in some really important and substantial ways, and that's critical stuff. So anyhow, that's with the $100 gift, the face mask. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of one of 3 books or a T-shirt. The T-shirt says, Ask Me About Free Speech TV, which is great. I keep kind of coming back to the idea, or to the notion that, we all need to be the marketing and PR department at Free Speech TV, because there isn't one there, and we need to be it, right? And that's you and me and, everything we can do on Facebook and Twitter and talking to our neighbors and wearing this T-shirt. Ask Me About Free Speech TV. Or your choice of one of 3 books. My book on the hidden history of the war on voting, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Killed the American Dream, or Greg Palast's book, How Donald Trump Stole 2020. And, they're all great books. So that's with a $120 gift, your choice of one of those 3 books. With a $240 gift, we've got 2 virtual meet and greets that are going to happen this month, or in the next 2 months. The first is October 14th, and the second is November 18th, just a week after our wedding anniversary, in fact. And we'll meet on Zoom, and you and me and a few other people. Typically, it's 10, 15 people, something like that, and we get together, and you can ask whatever you want, and I'll tell you what I really think. So, it's not recorded or anything. It's just a contemporaneous conversation. And with a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box, which includes the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the Free Speech TV tote bag, the Democracy postcards, and a copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies: How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland and hang out with us, but that might be a while. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 8669. Thank you. Refusal to acknowledge harming Americans as Trump brings the con into the pandemic. Dr. Bandy Lee is here on the science of hate-mongering. Is Donald Trump's hate contagious? Ellie Zupnik drops by about another broken promise on drug pricing from Donald Trump as the August 24th deadline comes and goes. Plus, Kevin Patel is here on the pollution from wildfires. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Bergamo, Italy is a town of about 120,000 people in the Lombardy region of Italy. And my apologies if you're Italian and I'm mispronouncing any of this. And they've got one major hospital in town, and that hospital, of course, this was part of the Lombardy region, was hard hit by the coronavirus, and Italy was hard hit, and lots of people died. And so now they're calling their survivors. They're calling the people who were diagnosed with COVID, who might have just come to the hospital to get a test or came into the hospital to get oxygen or even were intubated. They're calling them back and saying, "How are you doing?" This is from a piece in today's Washington Post. It's by Chico Harlan. It's titled, "Italy's Bergamo is calling back coronavirus survivors. About half say they haven't fully recovered." That's the headline. And they point out the hospital is calling back its survivors. It's drawing their blood, examining their hearts, scanning their lungs, asking them about their lives. "How are you feeling?" a doctor recently asked the next patient to walk in, a 54-year-old who can't climb a flight of stairs without losing her breath. "I feel like I'm 80 years old, the woman said. Serena Venturelli, an infectious disease specialist at the hospital, says, "We're asking people, are you feeling cured? Almost half the patients say no." Among the first 750 patients screened, 30% still have lung scarring and breathing problems, and another 30% have heart abnormalities and artery blockages. That's 60%. A few of them are at risk of organ failure. Many patients months later, this is the Pope John XXIII Hospital. Many patients months later are dealing with a galaxy of daily conditions and have no clear answer on when it will all subside, if ever. Leg pain, tingling in the extremities, hair loss, depression, severe fatigue. And we're not talking about old people here. They died. Some patients had pre-existing conditions, but doctors say these survivors are not experiencing a new version of old problems. We are talking about something new altogether, said Marco Rizzi, the head of the hospital's infectious disease unit. One patient, Giuseppe Vavasori, has developed short-term memory loss and now lives under a mountain of Post-it notes and handwritten reminders with names and phone numbers so he can still run his funeral home business. A post-COVID MRI showed dot-like lesions in his brain. Another, Guido Padoa, recovered well enough that he was able to go on vacation this summer, but he sleeps 4 extra hours every night and sometimes falls asleep in the middle of the day, head on his computer keyboard. Some patients who were self-reliant before contracting the virus remain so weakened that when they arrive for their follow-up appointments, these are the recovered people. They no longer have the virus. That when they show up for their appointments, they have to be helped to the waiting room by relatives in wheelchairs. And, you know, it just goes on from there. I refer you to the Washington Post, this piece by Chico Harlan. It's mind-boggling. 60% of the survivors are still seriously screwed up from this thing. This is one nasty, nasty disease. And Donald Trump knew that in January and lied to us right up to this day. And now he's saying, oh, yeah, well, I was lying because I don't want to start a panic. That's leadership. But at the same time, he's like, oh, by the way, white people in the suburbs, look out! Christine in Lexington, South Carolina. Hey, Christine, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. People are exasperated. I know I am, you are, that we have all these crises going on and we feel frozen. What do people do? So I was thinking about this, the coast is burning, the West Coast is burning, hurricanes are hitting us, the Midwest is hit with hurricane-like winds blowing tractor trailers over. Obviously, there's a big climate crisis. You'd have to be deaf and dumb not to know. So what can people do? We obviously can't depend on our government because they are paid off by the oil and fossil fuel industries. So as individuals, here is a thought, and you correct me if I'm going off base. The coal industry is bankrupt. They're living on loans. The oil industry are not making a profit because it costs more to pull a barrel of oil out of the ground than it does for what they can sell it for. So they're losing money hand over fist. Where are they getting their money? Banks, the big banks, Wall Street. Right.
Well, they're also getting hundreds of billions of dollars a year in subsidies from the federal government and state governments.
Right. But we can make a significant dent by all of us pulling our money, whatever, big or small, pulling it out of the big banks and going to local small banks or credit unions. The big banks are Citibank, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. Those are the ones who are funding fossil fuel. And we could make a dent. Right. People can do this without costing them any money, without a big leap of faith or a lot of energy expenditure, but you can feel like you're doing something. And if everybody did this, they'd have to wake up and stop funding these banks. Jamie Dimon in J.P. Morgan Chase, he's already cut back some on fossil fuel loans because he recognizes this, but they won't say much because the board. Yeah, well, I think
he also wants to be loved when he goes to Davos. But Christine, you're absolutely right. And if you were to move your money into a local bank, or even better, a local credit union, where you actually become one of the owners of the credit union, you'd be in good shape. Your money is safer as well. Kevin in Durham, North Carolina. Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hey,
Kevin,
Tom,
you're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Apparently the delay is catching us right now, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick. I mean, I'm just thinking about how 9/11 is tomorrow in the middle of all this. Mm-hmm. And, we knew that he was a monster even then, because I remember seeing him on TV talking about how his buildings were now the tallest in New York after the towers came down. So we knew he was a monster then. So why?
Right, and claiming that he's seen Muslims dancing in the streets when there was no such thing.
Yeah, so I mean, we knew he was a liar and a monster then. So I don't know why anybody is so shocked that we're at 200,000 deaths. He's still playing it down even now. So I don't get it. Yeah. I'm here in North Carolina, and we're split down the middle, half and half, and it's just like I don't understand why anybody at this point is supporting this guy, but.
Yeah, it astonishes me. As far as I can tell, Kevin, the only reason why anybody is still supporting Donald Trump, there's basically two groups. There's the very, very rich people who are very happy with all of his economic policies and his basically screw the worker policies. So you've got a few 100,000 people who have an income of $1 million or more, or maybe a couple 100,000 people, maybe even 1 million people whose income is above, say, 300,000 a year. And then you've got white people who are either afraid of or hate black people, Hispanics, Muslims, fill in the blanks for the minority group, gay people, trans people, all the folks that Donald Trump has gone after. And he's got a coalition of basically racists and rich people. And I don't think that there's enough racists and rich people in this country to elect a president. But, apparently we'll see. We'll see. I think a lot of people got duped in 2016. Hopefully it won't be, fool me twice, shame on me. Kevin, thank you for that call. Jerry in San Francisco. Hey, Jerry, what's up?
Hey, Tom, I just want to pick your brain on this. I remember just after maybe April or May, Mitch McConnell said, we'll bail out the states, just turn the state over to us and we'll erase your debt. Now San Francisco, and the city I live in, is going into their rainy day funds to just basically operate. The bills are due for the forest fires in California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. You can go on that way. What's going to happen? Are we going to go broke? I mean, are these states going to be able to meet their bills? And when is this going to happen?
Well, this is the great crisis at the federal level right now, Jerry, and that is that the Trump administration Mitch McConnell too, are refusing to pass the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act that the House passed back in May gives, I don't recall the exact amount, but it's something like $500 billion, a big chunk of money, big wad of money to state and local governments so that they can deal with this. And Trump has just decided, screw that. We're going to ignore that. So, Jerry, I got to run, but thanks a lot for the call, and we'll be right back. Stick around. It's 45 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We're trying to make some sense out of this. Sometimes, the easiest answer is the straightest, the Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer. He's incompetent, he's stupid, he's hateful, and he's lazy.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Or is there some master stroke here that I'm missing? I mean, is he really, is he positioning the Republican Party for some great victory? Is that what Lindsey Graham believes? And welcome back. George in Seattle. Hey, George, what's up?
They're rebuilt the chip, and there's a lady that's right around the street, but they put it in a factory.
George?
Oh,
okay. I think, we just picked him up, and then I put him on hold. Hang on just a second, George, here. Let me push another button. George, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's up?
Yes. I'm wondering how to explain to folks about this current recession and the fact that the stock market still looks good. Some understanding that dollars won't be going around in the local economy because nobody will have dollars to spend, and that'll hurt small business. But I don't know if there's a concise way.
What has happened, George, is that 40 years of Reaganomics have created, they're referring to this now as a K-shaped recovery, but basically it's been a K-shaped economy all along, which is, one leg of the K, the downward leg, that's the trajectory that's being followed by the bottom 95% of Americans, or 90% of Americans, working class people and below. Life is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then for the top 10%, the managerial class, the white-collar workers who can work from home, tech workers, the senior executives, the billionaires, the very wealthy people, the multimillionaires, for them, they're just getting literally richer every single day. And the Fed has been feeding that. You've got the Fed has manufactured out of thin air $7 trillion and used it to buy corporate bonds and corporate stock. And the only companies, as a result of this, that the Fed is supporting are publicly traded companies whose stock you can actually buy in the stock market. And it's real obvious to me, and we'll be talking to Richard Wolff about this in about 15 minutes. But what's real obvious to me is that they're doing this to try to keep the stock market up because so many Americans think the stock market is the indicator of how the economy is doing so that Trump can get reelected. And there is no doubt in my mind that the day after the election, particularly if Trump loses, but even if he wins, the day after the election, they're going to pull out the supports. This is the same thing George W. Bush tried to do in 2008. In the spring of 2008, the wheels started coming off the economy. We started realizing what was going on. Some of the credit markets started seizing up. The whole subprime mortgage thing was starting to come unraveled. And Trump and his Fed and Congress, everybody, the entire Republican Party, they were throwing everything they could at this, trying to forestall that until the day after the election so that they could say, oh, Barack Obama just got elected president, therefore, or even if it was John McCain, I don't think George W. Bush gave a damn. He didn't like John McCain anyway, but basically it was like, it wasn't my fault. That's what George W. Bush was trying to do. And he couldn't pull it off. He mistimed it by about 6 months. And it hit hard, and it hit bad. And I think that there's a very real chance we've got about 7 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that between now and the election, 55 days, I think it is. Is the bottom going to fall out between now and then, or is the bottom going to fall out right after the election? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. But your observation is spot on. This is not an economy that would support a strong stock market. The Fed is supporting the strong stock market, pure and simple, and it's an illusion, And the great and terrible Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain, that's Jerome Powell, who used to be one of the directors of the Carlyle Group, this major defense industry fund. The hidden history of the war on voting tells how the GOP has been stealing elections for decades and will again this year unless we stop them. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. In my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream, I'll be taking you from the birth of America as a revolt against monopoly, remember the Boston Tea Party, to the largely successful efforts of both Presidents Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt and other like-minded leaders to constrain corporations' monopolistic urges, to the massive changes in the rules of business starting during the Reagan Revolution that have brought us into the cancer stage of capitalism. In the foreword by Ralph Nader, he says, "This is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation." End quote. It's the fourth in my Hidden History series, available where all fine books are sold. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy starts with you. Tag, you're it. Well, welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Norris in is it Kinder, Louisiana?
Yes, it is, Tom.
Hello, Norris. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I couldn't take it anymore. I hadn't called you in a while. Donald Trump is deliberately trying to kill people. Deliberately.
It seems.
And I never thought I was going to live to see the day that I actually would recognize a living, breathing demon in the White House and all those evil doers. He is completely destroying America. Completely. And I've been watching you for the last few years, Tom, and everything that I heard come out of your mouth, it has been right on. And God bless you, Tom. Norris. You are a wonderful man.
Thank you, Norris.
Thank you.
I am hoping that he hasn't come. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Please don't ever run for president because somebody will take you out.
Thank you, Norris.
Please.
No, I'm not going to. I'm too old and too crotchety.
Yeah.
But Norris, I am hopeful that he has not completely destroyed America, but he's done a damn good job. And again, I keep going back to this. I wish the media would point this out more often. I haven't heard anything about it in several weeks, actually. But the week of April 7th somebody needs to write a damn book about it, because that was the week after, on April 7th, the week prior to that, the Trump administration and Jared Kushner and all these guys, they were actually planning on invoking the Defense Production Act. They were going to do nationwide testing. They were going to do nationwide. I mean, they actually had a plan. It was a variation on a plan that Obama had left for a flu pandemic, but they actually had a plan. And when the word came out on April 7th that Black and Hispanic people were disproportionately dying from this virus, then the Jared Kushner and Donald Trump in the White House said, "Okay, that's it. To hell with doing anything about it. We'll just let them die." And to that point, Norris, I think what you are saying is absolutely right. So, thanks a lot for the call. Yeah, Norris.
Invite yourself on Morning Joe.
Yeah, okay. Norris, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to see you, or great to talk with you. Excuse me, Dr. Randy in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Dr. Randy, what's up?
Well, this has to do with the fires, the loss of your home, property, and stuff that's going on in Oregon and many places. I talked to the Secretary of State's office this morning, and even if you've suffered losses or you've been removed from your town, you can add a temporary address with the county. You're talking for purposes of voting? Yes, for the purposes of voting. You can add a temporary mailing address. You can go to the county election office and check on that. You can pick up your ballot in person when it's available, and that's the beginning of October when they're mailed out. But you can pick up your ballot, so there should be no barrier to voting. You wonder, Randy, if Donald Trump is sitting there in the White House going, there's a bunch of blue states that are on fire, and if those people lose their homes, they won't be able to vote. And so maybe instead of losing this election by 3 million votes, I'll only lose it by 2 million votes in the popular vote. And so I'm just going to let them burn. I mean, where is FEMA, right? I'm sitting here in Portland and the sky is orange. It's like, where the hell is FEMA? Kate Brown is asking for an emergency declaration. But Randy, thank you. That's useful information. Thank you very much. I appreciate you passing it along. Judd in Tyler, Texas. Hey, Judd, what's up?
Hey, Tom. So I think you made a good point a while ago. I don't think the president, unfortunately speaking, has swayed enough people to garner anybody that's out of his circle, that anybody out of his base. I don't think there's enough people that he has brought on board that say, you know what, he's doing such a great job. I was going to do this, and I think he's got my vote. Matter of fact, I think he's probably lost more people than he's gained more people.
I think so too. So the question is, has he lost you've got, in Georgia, he's still running ahead of Joe Biden. You've got, and now they're doing this stuff county by county, in fact, electoral district by district, in terms of focusing Facebook ads and targeting individuals based on the zip code, on their zip code, or even on their specific address. This is this incredible tool that Mark Zuckerberg has, handed to the Trump campaign. Gave it to him in 2016. They've got it again. And, all they have to do is get, people in about 70 U.S. counties to overwhelmingly believe that Donald Trump is the savior and Joe Biden is Satan. And they got the election.
God help us, Tom. I mean, and I'll tell you, that's speaking of Facebook, is one of the reasons I got off that garbage. I mean, it's terrible. But anyway, love the show. Thanks, man.
Okay, thanks a lot, Judd. I mean, this is what's actually going on. This is what's actually going on. We have a guy in the White House who has been lying to us all year about the severity of a disease that 60% of the friggin' people who survive it are still sick and may be disabled for the rest of their lives, particularly those who have had strokes, who are having blood clot problems, who have had damage to their hearts or to their brains. I guess that's the definition of a stroke, but you get my point. And Trump is still, he's going to have a rally today in Michigan, if my memory serves me right. And, you know, if it's like the one in, what was it, North Carolina the other day, then the people will all be packed in. Stick around, we'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
Well, it's a very special, beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day today. The Free Speech TV Fund Drive is rolling along. We need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help, as is the case a couple of times a year. It does cost money, actual cash, to keep the electrons flowing from our studio to theirs, from their studios up to the satellite, from the satellite down to you. It's not cheap. And Free Speech TV is a listener-supported or viewer-supported television network. It's I don't know that there's any others out there outside of PBS, but perhaps there are. But this is the place where progressives can get good, solid progressive news and information. Well, really, where Americans can get good, solid news and information. In fact, Americans of all kinds can get good, solid, of all political persuasions, can get good, solid news and information right here on Free Speech TV from a variety of hosts. And, we go from relatively straight news reporting to, just straight up opinion on this program and on a lot of other programs here on Free Speech TV. It's an extraordinary platform, Free Speech TV. And, the guys who started it and the people who have supported it and who run it right now have done such a great job all these years. We really need to, keep it going. It's just like we can't let this network die, particularly now, but in general, we can't let this network die. So there's a group of premiums. If you call now, 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, there's a great group of premiums you can pick from. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the sticker that says Fight for Democracy, or the stainless steel straws, a set of 3 of them. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV webcam cover. There's a tote bag, really nice tote bag, that paraphrases Margaret Mead's old saying. Remember, she said, as I recall, this is from memory, never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. It's my recollection that was her quote. This one says change never happens from the top down, which is the same sentiment, and a good solid one. It's a nice tote bag, pick up your groceries. There's all kinds of things you can use tote bags for. Or with a $50 gift, you can get the Free Speech TV postcard pack, and a lot of great little slogans, and jot a quick note to a friend or neighbor or compatriot or fellow democracy warrior, whatever it may be, and here you go, these postcards, Fight for Democracy postcards. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of either the Thom Hartmann mug, and it's a nice porcelain, tall mug, or the Free Speech TV hat, and it comes in black and, with the Free Speech TV logo. And these are both useful, and they make great gifts. In fact, a lot of this stuff makes great gifts. So if you know somebody who's got a birthday coming up or an anniversary, or just you want to send them a, hey, I'm thinking of you gift or whatever, here's a great place to get your stuff. With a $100 gift, you get 2 of the Free Speech TV face masks that suggest we can grow from this crisis. And frankly, I think we can. I think we're all learning a lot right now from this crisis. I think the country is waking up in some really important and substantial ways, and that's critical stuff. So anyhow, that's with the $100 gift, the face mask. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of one of 3 books or a T-shirt. The T-shirt says, "Ask Me About Free Speech TV," which is great. I keep kind of coming back to the idea, or to the notion that, we all need to be the marketing and PR department at Free Speech TV, because there isn't one there, and we need to be it, right? And that's you and me, and everything we can do on Facebook and Twitter, and talking to our neighbors, and wearing this T-shirt. Ask Me About Free Speech TV. Or your choice of one of 3 books. My book on the hidden history of the war on voting, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Killed the American Dream, or Greg Palast's book, How Donald Trump Stole 2020. And, they're all great books. So that's with a $120 gift, your choice of one of those 3 books. With a $240 gift, we've got 2 virtual meet and greets that are going to happen this month, or in the next 2 months. The first is October 14th, and the second is November 18th, just a week after our wedding anniversary, in fact. And we'll meet on Zoom, and you and me and a few other people. Typically, it's 10, 15 people, something like that, and we get together, and you can ask whatever you want, and I'll tell you what I really think. So, it's not recorded or anything. It's just a contemporaneous conversation. And with a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box, which includes the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the Free Speech TV tote bag, the Democracy postcards, and a copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland and hang out with us, but that might be a while, but you can still give a $1,000 gift. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So I'm getting a sore throat here just from the first hour of belting out this show. The air in Oregon is just an absolute mess. And at the same time, our economy is an absolute mess. We had a caller in the previous hour saying, how is it that the stock market is up when nobody has the money to buy anything? I mean, I don't understand how that works. It's being reported that the Fed now owns 1/3 of all the mortgages in the United States. When did that happen? The Fed is buying stock in big companies. What the hell is going on here? Let's check in with Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, the co-founder of democracyatwork.info, the author of numerous books, his most recent Understanding Socialism, and rdwolf.com is his other website, Prof. Wolff with 2 Fs over on Twitter. Professor Wolff, welcome back to the program. So what's the deal? The Fed owns 1/3 of our mortgages? Really?
Yep, it does. And the way to understand this is to see it sort of historically. One of the ways you judge an economy is whether or not the system of the enterprises and the organization of the factories and the stores and the offices does or does not equip the mass of the people in a society with the things they need to lead a decent life. And we all know what those are: an adequate supply of food for a healthy diet, clothing to keep warm, a roof over your head, housing, medical care, transportation, schools, we all know. Well, one of the most important of those is housing. And once upon a time in this country, before, say, previous to 100 years ago, we were, in general, able to provide housing for people. Wasn't the greatest, particularly in our cities where waves of immigrants came in and had to live in tenements, but we provided housing. To make a long story short, when the Great Depression hits in the 1930s, a quarter of Americans lose their homes, a spectacular collapse of the ability of people to pay rent, the ability of people to buy their own home. And it became finally clear in that terrible crisis that we had a problem. We did not give the mass of our people enough in wages and salaries to be able to afford a decent home if they were going to feed themselves, et cetera, et cetera. So the government, and I know this is a problem for libertarians and others, but the government stepped in because there was no other way. And it started in the 1930s. We created a series of arrangements. The most famous was basically the government coming in, setting up an institution which guaranteed the mortgage that a person would take out to buy his or her home. In other words, for a small fee, the government would step in and say to the bank, go ahead and lend money to Mr. and Mrs. Smith to buy their home, because we, the U.S. government, will guarantee that even if Mr. and Mrs. Smith can't make their monthly payments, we, the government, will do so, because there was no other way to get the banks to lend to the average Americans who were going homeless. Now fast forward to today. The situation today is even worse. That's really important. Even worse for the housing market of this country than it was back then. We have tens of millions of people facing eviction now at the end of December of this year, and we have huge numbers of people that have stopped paying their mortgages and do not have any prospect at this point of being able to do it. No bank in their right mind, therefore, would lend money. Nobody would lend money to people now in the business of buying or trying to buy a home because of the terrible economic circumstances. Enter the government in a bigger way than ever before. Basically, what the Federal Reserve is doing is saying to all American lenders, particularly mostly banks, go ahead, lend money to a Mr. and Mrs. Smith for a mortgage to buy a house. Don't worry about it, because literally within minutes after you sign the papers, you bank, you've given Mr. and Mrs. Smith $100,000, you've gotten the mortgage written, you turn around and you sell it to the Federal Reserve. How does the Federal Reserve pay for it? By printing new money. The Federal Reserve creates money. It's been creating money by the trillions over the last 6 months. And so what it has basically done is said, we will now, in the end, provide the credit for the housing market. It's important to understand that fundamental to our capitalist system is the housing market, and that is now on life support from the federal government, as so much else is. And that the notion that we have a private capitalist economy is a mistake. We have an economy that can't function on a private capitalist basis, and therefore is relying on the government while it pretends that we still have a private capitalist system.
So the mechanism for this, the how it works, I'm guessing is relatively invisible to the average homeowner. Somebody goes to Wells Fargo, takes out a mortgage, buys their house. The person who sold the house gets the money. Wells Fargo has the paper. Wells Fargo makes the commission and books the profit immediately. And then Wells Fargo turns around and sells that mortgage to the Fed. But the Fed's not in the business of accepting your monthly payments. That's still going to Wells Fargo, isn't it?
Often, yes. Often the arrangement is, because the Fed doesn't want to be in that position, that they have an intermediate, a mortgage servicer. It can be the bank that originated it. It's actually more often another intermediary that functions in that way. You, the mortgage holder, may end up sending your monthly check to the same place, but all that is a mail drop. It is all handled, of course, paid by the Federal Reserve, which is you and me, basically, paid to handle it. But the final owner, the creditor, the person who legally has lent you the money, is the Federal Reserve. The government, and by the way, as a result of that, mortgages are available. You wouldn't be able to get a mortgage now for millions of Americans. And even if you did, you'd be paying much higher interest rates. So the government is coming in, providing the money, driving down the interest rate. Current average interest rate, 2.91%. That's because the Federal Reserve has stepped in with this, freely printing and creating money to stimulate the economy in this way. The only joke, if you like, is that the promises that were made back in the 30s that this was a temporary arrangement to get us out of the Depression, turns out it wasn't temporary. It has never stopped. It's only bigger now than it was for most of the previous time, except in moments of spiking. So you can see a total reliance on the government.
So a friend of mine's son moved to Portland a little while ago and was looking for a house. And this guy reached out to me and said, you don't have any houses for sale? And I'm like, I really don't, but keep me up to date. He made an offer on a house, and at asking price, within an hour, they had two other offers that were $100,000 over the asking price. This is a $600,000 house, which is kind of average house here in Portland or in downtown Portland. I'm not in downtown, but housing is expensive down there. Is that why? Is that why housing prices are exploding all over the country?
It's part of it. It's part of it. But absolutely, you've got record low mortgage rates, which means you can lock into a house with 20 or 30 years of historically low amounts of monthly cost of the mortgage, and you have literally an open spigot on the money because it's literally being created with a click of your computer in Washington, D.C. in the Fed headquarters. So yes, the answer is...
Does this end badly?
The reason that happens is it's kind of crazy time with the money.
Yeah. So next week when we talk, I want to ask you, how does this end badly? I mean, it seems like maybe it's a good thing over the short term. I'm not sure, but we'll continue the conversation. Professor Wolff, thank you so much for dropping by today.
Okie doke. Thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you and helping us all understand this stuff. We'll be right back. Professor Wolff, Prof. Wolff on Twitter, rdwolff.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And democracyatwork.info are his websites. Check them out. There's some great stuff. His newest book, Understanding Socialism, is brilliant too. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Jessica in Eugene, Oregon. Boy, it must be brown skies down there too, from what I'm hearing about the fires.
It is, and unfortunately, we're waiting for word because part of Springfield is in level 1 right now, and so it's just kind of nerve-wracking. I'm sure you feel it in Portland.
What does level 1 mean?
Level 1 is where you are to be ready. Level 2 is be set, and level 3 is you need to evacuate and go. And a lot of level 3 is happening around us. And so fortunately, Eugene being a very popular city, we've got a city to protect us, but it's still daunting. We have everything packed at our front door, ready to go.
I can imagine.
The fires, we've got family down in Ashland that we tried to reach out to make sure that they were safe. And, we didn't hear back from them for 2 days. And turns out that once we did hear back from them, they decided not to state how safe they were. They decided to send us a tweet by Paul Romero speaking about how Antifa were setting the fires and all of this, what I still call far-right propaganda. And I'm sitting here a little bit angrily as to when we're talking about the economy, we're talking to great people like Professor Richard Wolff. And when I grew up listening to Robert Reich, how do we talk to these people about how wrong this is to be stating these things during this election time, during these fires, during this economy? And as a millennial, we've been told it is on us to fix these problems, which are so ginormous now. It's just mind-boggling to me, especially getting that from somebody who had to evacuate. And that was the first thing that they decided to go towards.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I don't know what to say, with regard to people saying that, Antifa or Black Lives Matter are starting the fires in Oregon, or anywhere else. Obviously, it's a lie, number one. But number two, the problem doesn't seem to be, in my mind, so much the individual people who are saying this. They're getting that from somewhere. And 9 times out of 10, it seems they're getting it from Facebook. And I think that we've got a giant problem in this country with Facebook. It has become a right-wing cesspool. So, are you hearing from the people that are telling you these things? Are they telling you this via Facebook, or are they quoting site? Is this where they're getting their information, Jessica?
This one is specifically from a tweet. This person or family specifically gets information from far-right YouTube, is on Facebook pages that are far-right propaganda. And that's all that they're about. And this is not the only family member, but it was completely shocking during this time. And in Oregon, too, to account the fires for Antifa, which it totally is not. And, we've had questions with this particular person about the protests and things like that. But I'm just finding it, these fires are going to create economic disaster for us. They're going to be losing houses for people, including where he is at. On top of COVID. So I'm flabbergasted, and I felt like I needed to share that this morning.
Well, thank you, Jessica. We've got a big job, and after the election, we've got, it's cleanup on aisle 6, right? These guys have just been smashing the pickle jars all over the floor, and we got to do something about it. Jessica, thank you for the call, and I think that regulating Facebook is going to be a big piece of it. Or maybe them waking up. Zuckerberg, he owns more than half the company, so it's basically his little kingdom, waking up to the fact that what he's doing is actually destructive to his fellow human beings. On the Science Revolution this week, the impact of the pandemic on Trump's refusal to acknowledge science or join the World Health Organization's backed Vaccine Cooperation Pact. It's harming Americans as Trump brings the con into the pandemic. Dr. Bandy Lee is here on the science of hate mongering. Is Donald Trump's hate contagious? Ellie Zupnik drops by about another broken promise on drug pricing from Donald Trump as the August 24th deadline comes and goes. Plus, Kevin Patel is here on the pollution from wildfires. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Dennis in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Hey, Dennis, what's up? Dennis? I am not hearing Dennis. I'm going to put him on hold just in case. So every now and then we get real weird latency, and I'll end up being like a minute or a second, or 2 seconds or 3 seconds behind people. And if that's the case, Joyce, you can check out Dennis. He's online too. Charles in Miami. Charles, what's up?
Hey, great to hear from you. Thanks for taking my call, Tom. I just wanted to say that listening to Joe Biden yesterday, I have been preaching. I have been begging. I have been trying to, bring the Democrat Party to where I think they should be as far as at the end of this administration, if Trump is out, that there should be criminal charges for people in this administration. And I thought I heard Joe Biden say yesterday, basically from the fact that, from the Woodward tapes, that Trump, what he's doing is almost criminal. And I'm just hoping that the Democrats seize on that, because we've swung too far to the right, And we've talked about this in the past, because I basically said that they was having like almost a shadow government. And all of this money that they get when they go, right now through the elections, and they save up all this money, and they're just all corrupt, and it's only about big business. And I got a question I want to ask you for weeks now. When Nixon, when he went to China, and because there was already a civil rights bill passed, did they use that as offshore money for the Republicans? I mean, did they invest everything that they could, as far as Republicans are concerned, to save up for a war chest, to fight civil rights, and to get us to this point where we are with a Donald Trump today? Because after Donald Trump, if we don't do anything about him, I think the next Republican president is going to be more brighter, more smarter, more diplomatic, and he'll be able to finish off what Donald Trump can't finish off right now. As far as
I agree with you, Charles.
Totally destroying the country.
Tom Cotton is my nightmare. And with regard to Nixon and China, my recollection of that, and again, this is I'm working off a 40-year-old memory here, is that Nixon was being either bribed or paid or spiffed or campaign donated by Pepsi. And Pepsi wanted to establish a beachhead in the largest country in the world, population-wise, which was China. And Nixon went to China to try to open China up on behalf of Pepsi. That's my recollection, my understanding, Charles. And that was just a pure and simple. That was the beginning of the Republican embrace of so-called free trade. And because up to that point, I think pretty much all Americans had been protectionists. Excuse me.
I've been wondering, did they take all of their money that, offshore accounts, whatever, were they always just, planning on building up China, where one day, like just when the Soviet Union fell, they were able to, send their business overseas, still sell to Americans, and they're making hand over fist because, either way you go, that's where the Republicans, that's what big business is. And
I think that it was more like, let's put money in the pockets of Pepsi in this case, and then Reagan came along and said let's help all these big companies move their manufacturing to China because that will increase their profitability and they'll like that. But the Republican Party's commitment to stopping anything that has to do with civil rights or integration or rational racial policies in the United States, that all really took fire in 66, 65, 66, 67. That the last 4 years of the Lyndon Johnson administration right up to 68. And that's what Nixon ran on with his Southern strategy in 1968, which was basically, let's reach out to white racists. And they've been doing it ever since. Charles, thanks for the call. Gene in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. Hey, Gene, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I want to comment on Professor Wolff and follow up what he said about these banks. I've been doing this for 2 years. I called your show about 2 years ago, and I don't know if you remember, but I'm going through a foreclosure process now, and this is my second one. And what I'm seeing, I work with a group in the Pittsburgh area that actually was doing these loan modifications. And what Professor Wolff's talking about, it's actually even worse than that. Back in 2004, Tom, when I got hurt on my job, I'm a veteran. I worked 30 years for a major railroad. I got in an accident, and Countrywide became as the plaintiff against me. My loan was sold 5 times in 7 months. And when I was in Senator Arlen Specter at the time, Pennsylvania had 2 Republican U.S. senators. He did try to do something. That's how I met this group. The VFW heard my story, me being a veteran. Who showed up for Countrywide's legal team was Fannie Mae's attorneys. I said, well, what are you doing here? You're not the named plaintiff in the court document. This is what's going on. And
they're saying we bought the mortgage.
Right. And who so in the short of it, Tom, what ended up happening at the end after these people asked questions, his staff, and I asked my questions, he goes, Gene, I know there's fraud all through this, but who's going to take the hit? I wasn't savvy in all this, Becky, but this lady came over to me, and she was in this group. She said, Gene, the reason why they ain't taking your money, you're worth more in foreclosure because the records they're creating are backing securities that don't exist. And now I'm in the court case I'm in now is on this house. I had a loan put on my property in 2005. I didn't do the loan. I rescinded it. 2 years later, it's stamped paid in full Bear Stearns investment. It's the loan number they're using on that one now I'm in state court with. It's a joke.
Oh, man. It's like a Ponzi scheme. I mean, the whole thing. Gene, thank you for the call. This whole And now the Fed's in on it, right? I mean, welcome to Republican economics. It's bizarre. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls. New York Police Department hit with a lawsuit for breaking the neck of a black Muslim woman during a traffic stop.
Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
A traffic stop? We'll talk about that right after the break and pick up your calls. Stick around. Well, it's a very special, beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day today. The Free Speech TV Fund Drive is rolling along. We need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help, as is the case a couple of times a year. It does cost money, actual cash, to keep the electrons flowing from our studio to theirs, from their studios up to the satellite, from the satellite down to you. It's not cheap. And Free Speech TV is a listener-supported or viewer-supported television network. It's I don't know that there's any others out there outside of PBS, but perhaps there are. But this is the place where progressives can get good, solid progressive news and information. Well, really, where Americans can get good, solid news and information. In fact, Americans of all kinds can get good, solid, of all political persuasions, can get good, solid news and information right here on Free Speech TV from a variety of hosts. And, we go from relatively straight news reporting to, just straight up opinion on this program and on a lot of other programs here on Free Speech TV. It's an extraordinary platform, Free Speech TV. And, the guys who started it and the people who have supported it and who run it right now have done such a great job all these years. We really need to, keep it going. It's just like we can't let this network die, particularly now, but in general, we can't let this network die. So there's a group of premiums. If you call now, 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, there's a great group of premiums you can pick from. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the sticker that says Fight for Democracy, or the stainless steel straws, a set of 3 of them. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV webcam cover. There's a tote bag, really nice tote bag, that paraphrases Margaret Mead's old saying. Remember, she said, as I recall, this is from memory, never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. It's my recollection that was her quote. This one says, change never happens from the top down, which is the same sentiment, and a good solid one. It's a nice tote bag, pick up your groceries. There's all kinds of things you can use tote bags for. Or with a $50 gift, you can get the Free Speech TV postcard pack, and a lot of great little slogans, and jot a quick note to a friend or neighbor or compatriot or fellow democracy warrior, or whatever it may be. And here you go, these postcards, Fight for Democracy postcards. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of either the Thom Hartmann mug, and it's a nice porcelain, tall mug, or the Free Speech TV hat, and it comes in black and, with the Free Speech TV logo. And these are both useful, and they make great gifts. In fact, a lot of this stuff makes great gifts. So if you know somebody who's got a birthday coming up, or an anniversary, or just you want to send them a, hey, I'm thinking of you gift, or whatever, here's a great place to get your stuff. With a $100 gift, you get 2 of the Free Speech TV face masks that suggest we can grow from this crisis. And frankly, I think we can. I think we're all learning a lot right now from this crisis. I think the country is waking up in some really important and substantial ways, and that's critical stuff. So anyhow, that's with the $100 gift, the face mask. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of one of 3 books or a T-shirt. The T-shirt says, Ask Me About Free Speech TV, which is great. I keep kind of coming back to the idea, or to the notion that, we all need to be the marketing and PR department at Free Speech TV. because there isn't one there, and we need to be it, right? And that's you and me and, everything we can do on Facebook and Twitter and talking to our neighbors and wearing this T-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Or your choice of one of 3 books. My book on the hidden history of the war on voting, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Killed the American Dream, or Greg Palast's book, How Donald Trump Stole 2020. And, they're all great books. So that's with a $120 gift, your choice of one of those 3 books. With a $240 gift, we've got 2 virtual meet and greets that are going to happen this month, or in the next 2 months. The first is October 14th, and the second is November 18th, just a week after our wedding anniversary, in fact. And we'll meet on Zoom, and you and me and a few other people. Typically, it's 10, 15 people, something like that, and we get together, and you can ask whatever you want, and I'll tell you what I really think. So, it's not recorded or anything. It's just a contemporaneous conversation. And with a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box, which includes the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the Free Speech TV tote bag, the Democracy postcards, and a copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland and hang out with us, but that might be a while, but you can still give a $1,000 gift. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 8669. Thank you. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. In my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream, I'll be taking you from the birth of America as a revolt against monopoly, remember the Boston Tea Party, to the largely successful efforts of both Presidents Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt and other like-minded leaders to constrain corporations' monopolistic urges, to the massive changes in the rules of business starting during the Reagan Revolution that have brought us into the cancer stage of capitalism. In the foreword by Ralph Nader, he says, "This is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation." End quote. It's the 4th in my Hidden History series, available where all fine books are sold. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy starts with you. Tag, you're it. Here with you. This is insane. White guy goes into a black church and kills a whole bunch of people, and they take him to Burger King. Another white guy takes an AR-15 to a protest and kills a couple of people, blows the arm off the third, and they let him walk right by the police cars, wave at him, give him something to drink. Here, have a drink. And then there's this. This is one of the more infuriating things. A simple traffic stop. This is from Occupy Democrats. A simple traffic stop got out of control after officers refused her request. This is a Muslim American woman, a black woman who is Muslim, was stopped by police for a traffic stop. And she requested only to be touched by a female officer because of her religious beliefs. The police officers, quote, became aggressive and threw the plaintiff to the ground. The lawsuit alleges that Officer Tihun Khan then pressed his knee down on the plaintiff's neck and in her back while she yelled she couldn't breathe. She was dragged across the ground to the point where her undergarments were exposed to deliberate humiliation by the police before being shoved roughly into the car sideways as they yelled stupid B-word at her. Having sustained injuries during her assault, she demanded that they take her to a hospital or render her some kind of medical assistance, which they refused to do. She was left with a broken neck. She has a fracture in her neck. She's now suing the New York Police Department. That makes sense. But, why did this happen in the first place? And, along the same lines, or actually along, the flip side of this, the good news here, the Virginia House of Delegates, this was a couple days ago, the Virginia House of Delegates narrowly passed legislation Tuesday, day before yesterday, rolling back qualified immunity for police. The bill now heads to the Virginia Senate. This is the second time it's gone through the House. This time it finally passed by one vote. And now it's going to the Virginia Senate. So, a lot going on. Andrew in Illinois. Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Hello, Tom. I'd like to hear your thoughts about the United States Chamber of Commerce early in the pandemic lobbying the Trump administration to not invoke the Defense Production Act in order to allow market prices to dictate, protective equipment.
Right. Well, what happened instead was that the price of protective equipment doubled, tripled, quadrupled, went up, up, up. And the companies, some of the companies that are manufacturing this stuff are American companies, even though they're manufacturing overseas. It was a huge windfall. The market just, Jared Kushner even got in on the act, arbitraging these things. So the U.S. Chamber, it was the chamber that Lewis Powell went to in 1971 with his memo when he said, we've got to get political. The U.S. Chamber has gotten political, and under the last couple of CEOs, they have basically bought into Milton Friedman libertarian economic policy and are opposed to basically the government doing anything. Anything that the government can do, we can find a corporation to make a buck and do it better. That's their opinion. And, that's why, in my opinion, that's why they were opposed to it. It's also why you see FreedomWorks being opposed to it and other groups that are funded by the Koch brothers. But the U.S. Chamber has become extremely toxic over the years, and I think this is just another dimension of it. Andrew, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Grace in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. Hey, Grace, what's up?
Hi. I just wanted to say that Scott Walker divided the state here, and Trump is taking notes from the playbook. And when I was teaching, the one statement always was, as Wisconsin goes, so goes the nation. And it all started here with Scott Walker dividing the Democrats and the Republicans, and then hamstringing the state when he left. Governor Evers can do nothing, and anything he passes, they rescind. This town was having a recall signing on Governor Evers this last Saturday.
Wow. So give me an example, Grace, of something that Scott Walker pioneered in Wisconsin that Donald Trump is doing.
Not so much the same things, as examples. Hamstringing the workers, taking away the unions, embezzling the Badger Care money. Just the whole, making parents against teachers.
Right. Just pitting people against each other, basically.
Pitting against, yeah, absolutely. And the brain drain we had of all the good professors leaving all the universities. The fact that it all became a society of workers and not a society of thinkers anymore. Wisconsin used to be, the progressives, the Follets have been rolling in their grave over. Well,
and it was progressive workers, by the way. That was, that party was largely made up of farmers back in the day. And in fact, in Minnesota, it's called the Democratic Farm Party, as I recall.
Yeah, but they're not. There's so many farmers like here. It's all Trump. It's all Trump signs. They're all going to the educated left.
Yeah, I think a lot of that goes back to Fox News being so ubiquitous across rural America. It's amazing. Grace, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Dennis in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Hey, Dennis, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'd like to ask you a question about the Federal Reserve. So I understand that the Fed is putting trillions to buy government bonds, treasuries. This is to lower the interest rate.
No, that's not how it works, Dennis. The treasuries are issued. Government bonds are issued by the Treasury Department. They're a way that the federal government borrows money. The Fed then literally creates money with a stroke of a keyboard and buys those bonds, and that's how the Fed injects cash into the economy.
Right, but they're buying those bonds to the treasuries to reduce the interest rates, correct?
As long as the Fed is helping create demand for treasuries, it keeps the yield, the amount of interest the treasuries have to pay, down because supply and demand, basically.
Well, two questions about that. So number one, correct me if I'm wrong. I understand it's not inflationary because the Fed is just printing money, but it's not going directly into the economy. It's just buying those treasuries. And number two, you said the yields are they lowering the interest rates right now? I understand because we're in a recession, but also to make the deficit. Yeah,
they're at record lows right now, and whether it's inflationary or not, there's a fair amount of evidence that what the Fed has been doing for the last 3 years has created inflation in our economy, and it's hard to tease that out. It's like a crazy ball of yarn, because you don't know if the increase in housing prices is purely a function of demand. People are moving around. The COVID crisis is causing changes in housing patterns, or if it's purely a matter of low interest rates. That's clearly a big piece of it. Or if there's if it's just simply an indicator of underlying inflation, because inflation's happening or prices are going up in food and pharmaceuticals as well. And medical services. So it's hard to say. Generally speaking, bad inflation is caused when a primary commodity, in the 60s and 70s, it was oil. When a primary commodity becomes scarce. And when oil was scarce because of the Arab oil embargoes, that caused this massive inflation that Jimmy Carter inherited from Jerry Ford. And that was all because of the Arab oil embargo. But the gradual inflation that we've had, ask some old fart like me, I was making $1.20 an hour back in the 60s, and my recollection is that was the minimum wage. Maybe it was $2.20 an hour, but whatever it was certainly wasn't $7.25 an hour, which means that just in my lifetime, the value of the dollar has dropped to a third of what it used to be. That's serious inflation, the deterioration of your currency. And the Fed is supposed to supervise that. And the question right now for a lot of people, and part of the way that they do that is by creating money and buying treasuries. And, the question in a lot of minds now is, has the Fed just completely gone out of control? Are they doing everything they can to protect Donald Trump electorally? And as a consequence of that, are they setting America up for a massive crash after the election? And Professor Richard Wolff would answer that question yes, or has on this program on a number of occasions, and I would agree with that. Dennis, I got to move along, but hang on. Lou, I'm going to pick you up after the break. Sorry, Lou, I wasn't watching my clock. It's 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, fair and only slightly unbalanced. The place where we ask, is Walmart a person? And we say, no, not a chance. Come on, give me a break. We need to change that law. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Or more accurately, we need to change that Supreme Court non-decision. Those of you who know what I'm talking about know what I'm talking about. We'll be right back. And Lou, you're listening on Sirius XM, so I'll pick you up as soon as they're live again in 4 minutes. So let's start with Daniel, who's listening on KBCS. Non-commercial station, which carries our show in Shoreline, Washington. Hey, Daniel, what's up?
Hi, Tom. The other day on Facebook, you posted something about Reagan, how he had dropped the highest income tax rate from, I think it was 78 or something, to 24%. And
74 to 25.
25, yeah. And they kind of insinuated that this was the beginning of the demise of the middle class. And I was trying to explain that to my wife, and she has this thing about if you raise the tax rate too high, nobody has an incentive to work. But I was wondering if you could give me a little primer on that. How did it go from there, dropping the tax rate to the demise of the middle class?
Well, yes, if people are taxed at 100%, nobody's going to work. that makes common sense. But number one, the first thing that most people miss in this whole debate, and it's intentional, the billionaires want you to miss it, is that we have a progressive graduated tax system. So, you know, if you're making $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 a year, you pay very little in income taxes. You make $30,000, $40,000 a year, you pay a little bit in income taxes. You're making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Now you're starting to pay a little more in income taxes. You make $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year, and now you're paying 37%. And back in the day, if it was over $3 million a year, back when Reagan came into office, you would have been paying 74%, which is where, you know, Lyndon Johnson put it in 1967. It used to be 91%. Didn't mean that those rich people who were making $3 million a year stopped working. What it meant was they stopped taking any more than $3 million a year. And, you know, because above that, the taxes were essentially confiscatory. And so what did they do? You know, since they're not taking that money out of their companies, they kept that money in the company. They paid their workers better. They developed new products. They expanded their business. They cleaned up their act. I mean, they did the things that companies used to do before the Reagan era. Now, companies don't do any of those things. American workers haven't gotten a raise since 1981. In fact, the average worker has seen their wages go down, inflation adjusted. It's the average household income. When you Google this stuff, and it gets particularly deceptive when you kick around Wikipedia and whatnot. But basically, the average household income is about where it was when Reagan came into office. But the average household has more than 2 people working in it, whereas back in 1980, it was 1.2 or 1.3 people working in the average household. So wages have actually gone down. The other thing is that for working class people, for rich people, when taxes are cut, their money, the money that they take home actually goes up because they control how much they get paid. But for working people, when taxes are cut, their wages will go down over the next few years because they're now taking home more money. And the labor market is a take-home money market. It's a post-tax market. So, if you're making $30,000 a year and your employer knows that you're taking home 25 as a result of that, and you get a tax cut, so now you're taking home 27, your employer is going to figure out a way over the next 3 years to lower your income by $2,000 or hire somebody, with a take-home pay of $25,000, which might now be $28,000 in pay, because that's the new definition of what the marketplace will bear, basically, the labor marketplace. So as taxes go down on working people, so do wages. And as taxes go up on working people, wages go up too. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. So we've had a new video over at ThomHartmann.com for the folks who support our program. It's about 2 people you probably never heard of, Isabel Cairo and Jay Sim. They are economists with the Federal Reserve. And they just came out with this extraordinary new paper. It was actually published by the Fed, in which they point out that most of the economic crises and problems that we're experiencing in the United States, going back to the 1980s, the stagnation in wages, the actual drop in wages, the stagnation in household income as more and more people in households are working, the explosion in the net worth of the top 5% of households, things that are driving, credit bubbles and other, stock bubbles and things like this. A dramatic amount of that was the result of monopoly power, corporate monopoly power. And about half of that could have been eliminated if we simply taxed unearned income. It's amazing. Check it out at ThomHartmann.com. Oh, welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And, Lou, that's right. I was going to put Lou on the air. Lou in Fairplay, Colorado. Hey, Lou, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Just thought I was going to relate personal experience from the 2000 election, Bush-Gore in Florida. And my father-in-law worked for the county, and the county always maintained the voting machines, which were the old push-pin type at that time. Okay? For that election, the state got orders from all the counties, got orders. All the machines were sent to Ohio to be adjusted by Diebold, a third party, to make sure they were accurate. Well, my father-in-law was a perfectionist, so when they came back, he checked them. He found that all the machines for his county were not going to punch correctly on the Democratic side, and so he readjusted them. So that was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, and I explained to him what I think happened was going on there, and he said, well, also 19 commissioners of elections quit that in August for a November election. The one in his county said is because she refused to cheat. She was a Republican.
Wow.
Now, a couple years later, he asked me to come down and see these new electronic machines. And because I'm an electrical engineer, he said, wow, these things are a little beyond me. So I came in and looked at them. Basically, all they were was a PC, and they would store the votes in, depending on it going to one cell of an Excel spreadsheet when you voted. And I could open the files with Excel. They weren't password protected or encrypted or anything. You could literally just plug in the serial port back then, take them off the machine, modify them, and put them back.
Yeah. Tina Brown used to have a TV show called Topic A with Tina Brown on, I think it was on MSNBC, might have been CNBC, but wherever it was. And she was off one week, and she had Howard Dean fill in for her. And my recollection is this was around 2003, 2004, but it could have been a little later than that. And Howard Dean had Bev Harris on, and Bev Harris brought a Diebold voting machine and a tabulator. And she, on live on the air, there are still clips of this floating around the internet. It took 90 seconds for Howard Dean to hack a voting machine and reverse the outcome of an election. 90 seconds. And and that was a Diebold machine. And you would think that we would have been warned, right? You would think that we would have been warned.
Now they're doing it from Moscow.
Yeah, well, and yeah, that's the big concern right now is that they absolutely are. Lou, thank you for the call, and thanks for the warning, the heads up. Mamie in Simpsonville, South Carolina, how are you today? What's on your mind?
Fine, thank you. I'd like to know if you can tell me why are they building houses? A housing construction boom in Lower Greenville County. Who's going to be buying these homes? Thousands of them everywhere there is a piece of land that's being cultivated, plowed up, and the house is being set on it. Answer it for me if you can.
I'm guessing, Mamie, that these are houses that are not going to be selling for $50,000 or $60,000 or $100,000. That they're houses that are going to be selling for $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, right? Oh, we just lost Mamie. In answer to your question, if my guess is correct that these are upper middle class houses, that's the point that I was making in the first hour when I was talking about a K-shaped recovery. And there's not much discussion of this outside of the financial press. I keep reading about this in the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal. I don't read about it in the New York Times, the Washington Post, but here's how it works. The K-shaped recovery is basically more of a divergence. If you look at the letter K, ignore the vertical upright and just look at the two arms that come off that vertical upright. One's going up, one's going down. And that's what's happening in the United States. The top 10% of Americans, the white collar and managerial class, the very wealthy people, the capitalists who live on their investments, those people are at the top of the K. And what they're coming out of this COVID, and they're going through this COVID, doing really, really well. The top 5% of Americans have actually added, over $1 trillion of wealth, several $1 trillion of wealth, over $1 trillion of wealth this year to their wealth. The bottom 90% of Americans, though, are going down, and going down fast. And this is exacerbating income inequality in the United States. And when income inequality gets really bad, when it hits serious critical levels, then look out. Then you've got social unrest. Then you've got people in the streets with guns. And this is the 40-year experiment with Reaganomics. And 30 years into it, in 2010, 10 years ago, that was the year that the number of people who were in the middle class in America went below 50%. And that is a danger sign. That is a warning sign to any democracy anywhere in the world, because when the middle class gets below 50%, and is clearly and simply the result of two major policies, Reagan's tax policies and Reagan's free trade policies. And when that goes below 50%, that's when people start feeling the pinch really, really hard, and they start getting really, really upset. And, basically society starts to disintegrate. And we are there because of 40 years of Reaganomics. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
Well, it's a very special, beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day today. The Free Speech TV Fund Drive is rolling along. We need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help, as is the case a couple of times a year. It does cost money, actual cash, to keep the electrons flowing from our studio to theirs, from their studios up to the satellite, from the satellite down to you. It's not cheap. And Free Speech TV is a listener-supported or viewer-supported television network. It's I don't know that there's any others out there outside of PBS, but perhaps there are. But this is the place where progressives can get good, solid progressive news and information. Well, really, where Americans can get good, solid news and information. In fact, Americans of all kinds can get good, solid, of all political persuasions, can get good, solid news and information right here on Free Speech TV from a variety of hosts. And, we go from relatively straight news to, just straight up opinion on this program and on a lot of other programs here on Free Speech TV. It's an extraordinary platform, Free Speech TV. And, the guys who started it and the people who have supported it and who run it right now have done such a great job all these years. We really need to, keep it going. It's just like we can't let this network die. Particularly now, but in general, we can't let this network die. So there's a group of premiums. If you call now, 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, there's a great group of premiums you can pick from With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the sticker that says Fight for Democracy, or the stainless steel straws, a set of 3 of them. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV webcam cover. There's a tote bag, really nice tote bag, that paraphrases Margaret Mead's old saying. Remember, she said, as I recall, this is from memory, never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. It's my recollection that that was her quote. This one says, change never happens from the top down, which is the same sentiment, and a good solid one. It's a nice tote bag, you know, pick up your groceries. There's all kinds of things you can use tote bags for. Or with a $50 gift, you can get the Free Speech TV postcard pack, and you know, a lot of great little slogans, and you know, jot a quick note to a friend or neighbor or compatriot or fellow democracy warrior or whatever it may be, and here you go, these postcards, Fight for Democracy postcards. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of either the Thom Hartmann mug, and it's a nice porcelain, you know, tall mug, or the Free Speech TV hat, and it comes in black and, you know, with the Free Speech TV logo. And these are both, you know, both useful and they make great gifts. In fact, a lot of this stuff makes great gifts. So if you know somebody who's got a birthday coming up or an anniversary, or just you want to send them a, hey, I'm thinking of you gift or whatever, here's a great place to get your stuff. With a $100 gift, you get 2 of the Free Speech TV face masks that suggest we can grow from this crisis. And frankly, I think we can. I think we're all learning a lot right now from this crisis. I think the country is waking up in some really important and substantial ways, and that's critical stuff. So anyhow, that's with the $100 gift, the face mask. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of one of 3 books or a t-shirt. The t-shirt says, Ask Me About Free Speech TV, which is great. I keep you know, kind of coming back to the idea, or to the notion that, you know, we all need to be the marketing and PR department at Free Speech TV, because there isn't one there, and we need to be it, right? And that's you and me, and you know, everything we can do on Facebook and Twitter, and talking to our neighbors, and wearing this t-shirt, Ask Me About Free Speech TV. Or your choice of one of 3 books. My book on the hidden history of the war on voting, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Killed the American Dream, or Greg Palast's book, How Donald Trump Stole 2020. And, you know, they're all great books. So that's with a $120 gift, your choice of one of those 3 books. With a $240 gift, we've got 2 virtual meet and greets that are going to happen this month, or in the next 2 months. The first is October 14th, and the second is November 18th, just a week after our wedding anniversary, in fact. And we'll meet on Zoom, and you and me and a few other people. Typically, it's, you know, 10, 15 people, something like that, and we get together, and you can ask whatever you want, and I'll tell you what I really think. So, you know, it's not recorded or anything. It's just a contemporaneous conversation. And with a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box, which includes the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the Free Speech TV tote bag, the Democracy postcards, and a copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland and hang out with us, but that might be a while, but you can still give a $1,000 gift. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 8669. Thank you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you out here on the left coast, where the sky is orange or brown or futzy or kind of golden, actually. It's a very, very strange color. Not normal. And we're finding that the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere right now, compared to pre-industrial revolution, around the time of the American Revolution, are 147% up for carbon dioxide, 259% up for methane, that's almost tripled, and 123% higher for nitrous oxide. What does this mean, and where are we going with this? Dr. Michael Mann is on the line with us, the Distinguished Professor of Meteorology, the Director of the Earth Systems Science Center at Penn State University, member of the National Academy of Sciences, author of numerous books, his most recent, The Madhouse Effect, How Climate Change is Threatening Our Planet, Destroying Our Politics, and Driving Us Crazy, and the recipient of the Tyler Prize. Professor Mann, welcome back to the program. Or Dr. Mann, it's always great having you on. Tell us how, and I'm seeing this report here that says that we might hit that 1.5 degree level that the IPCC said, don't go there, don't go above that. We might hit that as early as 2024. Am I reading that right?
Yeah. Hi, Tom. It's good to be with you as always. And there's a lot going on here. And the scenes that you describe and that I've seen, playing out in California, we see on our television screens, the whole West Coast is essentially on fire. The skies, as you note, are orange, red, yellow colors they're not supposed to be. And this is disturbingly reminiscent for me of my experience just some months earlier this year when I was doing a sabbatical in Sydney, Australia. And whether you're Sydney, Australia or California, climate change is here. This is the face of climate change. It's not a far off threat. It's leading to extreme weather events and disasters like we're seeing right now along the West Coast, as we also have seen an extremely busy and devastating Atlantic hurricane season here in the East that's likely to get even worse. So the problem's getting worse. As you note, this latest report, carbon dioxide concentrations continue to rise. And they will continue to rise as long as we emit carbon into the atmosphere. And there's sort of a misunderstanding that's fairly widespread here when it comes to the difference between the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere and our carbon emissions. So our carbon emissions have actually gone down about 4 or 5% this year. That's a good thing. But until we bring them down to zero, CO2 levels will continue to rise. It's sort of like the faucet in your sink, and you've got a tub of water. As long as the faucet is on, the water level is going to rise. The water level is our CO2 concentrations. The faucet is our carbon emissions, and we've got to bring them down to zero. Now, you also asked about these dangerous thresholds that we are going to cross in the near future. If we don't bring our carbon emissions down by a factor of 2 within the next decade, then it will be very difficult to keep carbon dioxide levels below the levels that commit us to more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, about a little under 3 degrees Fahrenheit warming. And that threshold will be crossed most likely a little bit later than what this recent report, the WMO report, claimed. They said, by 2030. And that reflects a bit of a misunderstanding between sort of the rates of temperature change from year to year and sort of the longer term warming trend, because the temperatures fluctuate quite a bit from year to year, or even from one 5-year period to another because of natural events like El Nino or volcanic eruptions. And so we measure the trend over, a decade or 2 decades or longer. And that trend right now is about 0.2 degrees Celsius per decade. We're at about 1.2 Celsius. Your viewers can do the math if they like. But what that means is that we will cross the 1.5 degree Celsius, nearly 3 degree Fahrenheit threshold, about 2035 at the continued, at the rate that we're warming right now. So it's not quite as bad as the report made it sound. The report says 2030. It's more like 2035. But, we're haggling over 5 years. Regardless of how you look at it, this is an unfolding crisis that will continue to get worse if we don't do something and do something immediately.
Yeah, back a decade ago when I used to actually be willing to debate these climate-denying fools like Mark Morano, who was actually, he used to come on the program fairly regularly, and I would point out, or he would point out, he would say, hey, our carbon dioxide levels right now are, more than 100% what they were 200 years ago, and the weather's not that different. Why are you so upset? And my response was always, I think that, it's like an ocean liner. I mean, the atmosphere, the entire planet is this huge, massive thing. And, you make these changes, and it takes a while for those changes to filter into every dimension, every ecosystem, particularly the ones that are going to add on to the change that's already happening. And we're seeing that right. I believe, I'd love to get your take on this. I believe we're seeing this right now. Over the last decade, these forests up and down the West Coast have been drying out because of climate change. While it didn't immediately burst into flames, it took a decade for all the trees to dry out and many of them to die off so that they're now tinder. And then that is going to be throwing more particulate matter into the atmosphere, and it's going to reduce the number of trees that are cycling carbon back into that. Right. And the same thing with the peat, with the permafrost up in the northern climates. It takes a while for it to thaw out, but once it thaws out, all hell breaks loose. Or do I have that wrong?
No, you've got it right. We are the Titanic. We are this huge ocean liner, and we've got to steer away from this iceberg that is getting closer and closer. And just as the Titanic found it couldn't steer fast enough to avoid it, that's the problem that we will face if we don't steer away from the iceberg immediately, which means to, ramp down our carbon emissions. There are sort of what we call threshold responses here. Sometimes we call them tipping points. And, the melting of the ice sheets is one of the tipping points we worry about. If we melt, if we warm the planet up enough, then we can't stop the collapse of the West Arctic and Greenland ice sheet. And we get, literally tens of feet of sea level rise, meters of sea level rise. And, in this case, there may also be a threshold when it comes to wildfires. There's some, indication now that once you raise temperatures enough and you dry things out enough, you get qualitatively different types of wildfires. Wildfires that burn much hotter, spread much faster, cover much wider areas. And you hear firefighters now. We heard this down in Australia saying, we have never seen fires like this during, the Black Summer, we're calling it, last summer in Australia when the entire continent caught fire, essentially. The firefighters were saying, we've never seen fires like this that spread so quickly, that burn this intensely. We don't know how to combat them. They are far more deadly to combat. And that's what we're seeing now. So, we've warmed up, the planet enough. We've dried out the subtropics, which is one of the predictions that climate models made decades ago. We'll make it hotter, we'll make it drier in places like California and Australia. You put those two things together, you get worse wildfires. But once it gets hot enough and dry enough, and that's where we are, that's the territory we're moving into, you get qualitatively worse, unprecedented wildfires that are like nothing we've seen before. And we're now looking at 2.5 million acres burned in California alone. Right now, burning in California are the second, third, and fourth largest wildfire on record. The first being Camp Fire 2 years ago. That happened in the winter, not even the dry season.
Yeah, and we're just at the very beginning now of a fire season for California. Yeah. It's amazing. Dr. Michael Mann. Dr. Mann, thanks so much for being with us today. It's great talking with you.
Thank you, Tom. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. And check out Dr. Mann's newest book, The Madhouse Effect, his website, michaelmann.net. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Stick around. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a second, 15 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. Paul in Ashland, Oregon. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Great to talk with you. I have solutions to some of the problems that you're introducing and wonder if you're open to talking about them.
Oh, try me.
Well, I will say I'm 65 years old, so I've seen a few things, have a bit of perspective, as you can appreciate. That's important. I've been a cannabis scholar for 30 years. I've been an investigative journalist in Europe and the Middle East, and have a pretty broad perspective on the problems.
So, Paul, what's your point?
Systemic collapse is the connecting concept to all of the problems that you're talking about, and I can take you back to the origins of the systemic collapse that we're in. In 3 words, I can tell you why we are where we are. It is.
You're talking about the collapse of our democracy, the collapse of our social systems, the collapse of our environment, and the collapse of our economy? Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about?
Exactly. I talked with Daniel Shore a couple of decades ago on his radio program, State of the Nation, or I'm sorry, Talk of the Nation. And he heard what I was saying. He understood how hemp can be a critical resource. Well, it's a critical resource that was removed from the so-called free market economy 80 years ago, and it's still stumbling its way through overregulation in order to...
Well, they've been growing hemp like there's no tomorrow in Canada now for a decade, and they're not immune to COVID virus. They're not immune to right-wing crazies. They're not immune to, big corporations trying to steal everything that's not nailed down. I mean, I don't see how hemp solves anything. It's a great crop, you know. If you want to be a farmer and you want to grow hemp, good luck. There's a market for it, but and there are states in the United States where it's a major crop now. In the northern tier, and I'm pretty sure the Dakotas right now they're growing hemp like there's no tomorrow.
Well, it's the only crop that produces complete nutrition and sustainable energy from the same harvest, which puts it in a category by itself. The complete nutrition comes from the seeds, and the sustainable energy comes from the stems. And the sustainable energy is in the form of cellulosic hydrogen, which is clean and abundant and is crippled by the overregulation of the hemp industry because of this obsolete fear of THC that supersedes people's concerns about climate change. If this crop can help to reverse climate change, then there should be no concern at all about THC, which actually has been shown to be good for the human body. So, I mean, the fact is,
Paul, I guarantee you, just growing hemp is not going to reverse climate change.
I wrote a book about it, Tom. It's called Cannabis versus Climate Change, and I made a film about it.
Okay, great. Good. Paul, people can check it out. Cannabis versus Climate Change. I'd love to read it. But that said, I'm telling you, it's not going to reverse climate change. We have to decarbonize our energy systems. It's that simple. We need to stop pouring poison into the air. We'll be right back. Daily rants and weekly op-eds at HartmannReport.com. It's free and there's no ads. HartmannReport.com. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. Barbara in Chicago Heights. Hey, Barbara, what's on your mind today?
Okay, Tom, I'm thinking that after hearing you today, you haven't been talking about Trump and Pence resigning, so you probably don't think there's any chance of that happening.
You're right.
Or anything we can do to make that happen.
Well, what I do think is possible is that if Trump clearly, resoundingly, irrefutably loses the election, I think that there's a very good chance that Trump will resign so that Pence can pardon him. Mm-hmm. And that he will then start trying to cut deals with, Letitia James, the New York AG, or I think it's Cy Vance is the New York City district attorney, who are both looking at tax fraud and bank fraud charges against him, things like that. Because he told, what was it, Bob Woodward? It was somebody. The story came out last week. There's so many of these right now. It's hard to keep them straight. But basically, he said that he thought that if Bob Mueller got close to his criminal activity with Russian oligarchs laundering money and stuff for them, that he would simply cut a deal with Bob Mueller. I mean, that's what he thought. And so I think he thinks he can cut deals going forward, and this would be the ultimate deal. What do you think, Barbara?
Yeah, I do remember that story too, but nothing we can do to try to force him before the election. I'm a little nervous. The more we talk about machines being hacked and Trump trying to cheat and Russia trying to cheat.
As long as he thinks there's a 1% chance that he might end up president, and I'd say that you look at the betting odds right now, and it's between a 35 and 40% chance that he becomes president. As long as it's that high, he's going to hang on until the election, because there's no sort of Damocles here. There's no guillotine threatening to chop his head off at any moment, to mangle a metaphor here, yet. And so I think he's just going to ride it out. But the critical time and the dangerous time, frankly, because he's going to be faced with a choice: does he resign and get a pardon by Pence, or does he try to start a civil war? That little window is going to be from whenever the election is called, which will presumably be around November 10th, until January 20th, when he ceases to be president. And during that period of time, he's going to have virtually unlimited power, as long as the Senate backs him up, or refuses to do anything about him. And we know that his inclination, he's fueled by hate and revenge. Those are his favorite things. I mean, they're like his favorite foods. And I think increasingly he hates America. He feels like America has not respected him, has not loved him, has not treated him with the kindness that, he went to North Korea and what was it? John Kelly was with him. There was one of the generals that was with him was like, wow, this is really amazing. No, that was in Saudi Arabia. This is really amazing. Nobody is protesting as we're driving the motorcade down into downtown Riyadh or whatever the city was. And of course, the reason why was if you show up with a protest sign, they will chop your head off. But that's the kind of world that Donald Trump wants to live in, and that's not America. And he's very upset about it. But, I'm concerned, and I don't see, frankly, in direct answer to your question, Barbara, I don't see any way that we can make him resign. We just have to beat him.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot for the call. Great to hear from you. Yeah, thank you. Carl in Ocala, Florida. Hey, Carl, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'm sorry. I think you're on a theme today, something about the climate. And my question and my interest area is quite a bit different, but your screener let me through, so I'll ask it.
Okay.
I've been told recently that the big one, I know there's like 10, 15 of the stimulus acts. The big one, the HERO, I think it's called the HEROES Act. There was
the one that has not passed the Senate, the $3 trillion package that the House passed back in May.
No,
is that what you're talking about?
The one that did pass, the big one.
Oh, that's called the CARES Act. That was the $1.5 trillion one, yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right, CARES Act. Okay, my question is this. I've recently learned from a friend that she thought she had heard a number of stories about billions, literally billions of that money, which I didn't think was supposed to go to fossil fuel firms. And she listed 7 companies, Exxon, Mobil, and so on, that actually got billions of debt bond buyouts. And
that's
bailouts.
True, Carl. That's true.
You know how much? Well, they've tried to. From what she told me, the big problem is the Congress, in its oversight role, has been trying to get the administration, Steve Mnuchin basically, to tell them how much of that money, which wasn't appropriated for that purpose.
Right, and Mnuchin keeps saying it's a secret. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there some way they can't? Here's my second question.
Well, they kind of shamed him and harassed him to the point where he said, okay, we'll tell you anybody who got less than $100,000. Or some amount similar to that. So we'll tell you about the small fish, but we're not going to tell you about our billionaire buddies. That's where we're at, Carl, as far as I know, as far as I recall.
Well, my second and the one question I've been wanting to ask you for quite a while is, I understand that Congress has the right by the Constitution to reconstitute itself, I think, as a court and actually issue orders to incarcerate or to enforce their subpoenas and things. Why do they fail to do that?
You're talking about a doctrine called inherent contempt, and the last time that was done by the U.S. House of Representatives was in the 1920s or the 1930s, and it has happened very, very rarely. The House of Representatives, or the Capitol building, no longer has a jail. What used to be the Capitol jail is now the place where Lincoln's hearse is kept. And the big problem with that, with inherent contempt, is that the only police force that Congress has any say over are the Capitol Police, who monitor the Capitol building. And they can't leave the Capitol building. They can't say to the Capitol Police, go across town and arrest so-and-so and, drag his butt in here to testify before us. They just don't have that power. So I don't think it's going to work. I would love to see them try to use inherent contempt. I think it would be, it would be a great thing and it would be good theater. But I don't think it would be particularly effective. And at this point in time, it would just get thrown to the Supreme Court, who, just like with their, with the Trump administration's request to throw away Obamacare, the Supreme Court said they'll rule on that after the election. The same thing would happen.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. Taking back the mainstream media 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, right here. Thom Hartmann with you. Well, it's a very special, beautiful Thursday. I hope you're having a great day today. The Free Speech TV Fund Drive is rolling along. We need your help. Free Speech TV needs your help, as is the case a couple of times a year. It does cost money, actual cash, to keep the electrons flowing from our studio to theirs, from their studios up to the satellite, from the satellite down to you. It's not cheap. And Free Speech TV is a listener-supported or viewer-supported television network. It's I don't know that there's any others out there outside of PBS, but perhaps there are. But this is the place where progressives can get good, solid progressive news and information. Well, really, where Americans can get good, solid news and information. In fact, Americans of all kinds can get good, solid, of all political persuasions, can get good, solid news and information right here on Free Speech TV from a variety of hosts. And, we go from relatively straight news reporting to, just straight up opinion on this program and on a lot of other programs here on Free Speech TV. It's an extraordinary platform, Free Speech TV. And, the guys who started it and the people who have supported it and who run it right now have done such a great job all these years. We really need to, keep it going. It's just like we can't let this network die, particularly now, but in general, we can't let this network die. So there's a group of premiums. If you call now, 877-378-8669 and make a contribution, there's a great group of premiums you can pick from. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the sticker that says Fight for Democracy, or the stainless steel straws, a set of 3 of them. With a $50 gift, there is the Free Speech TV webcam cover. There's a tote bag, really nice tote bag, that paraphrases Margaret Mead's old saying. Remember, she said, as I recall, this is from memory, never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. My recollection that was her quote. This one says, change never happens from the top down, which is the same sentiment, and a good solid one. It's a nice tote bag, pick up your groceries. There's all kinds of things you can use tote bags for. Or with a $50 gift, you can get the Free Speech TV postcard pack, and a lot of great little slogans, and jot a quick note to a friend or neighbor or compatriot or fellow democracy warrior or whatever it may be. And here you go, these postcards, Fight for Democracy postcards. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of either the Thom Hartmann mug, and it's a nice porcelain, tall mug, or the Free Speech TV hat, and it comes in black and, with the Free Speech TV logo. And these are both useful, and they make great gifts. In fact, a lot of this stuff makes great gifts. So if you know somebody who's got a birthday coming up or an anniversary, or just you want to send them a, hey, I'm thinking of you gift or whatever, here's a great place to get your stuff. With a $100 gift, you get 2 of the Free Speech TV face masks that suggest we can grow from this crisis. And frankly, I think we can. I think we're all learning a lot right now from this crisis. I think the country is waking up in some really important and substantial ways, and that's critical stuff. So anyhow, that's with the $100 gift, the face mask. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of one of 3 books or a t-shirt. The t-shirt says, Ask Me About Free Speech TV, which is great. I keep kind of coming back to the idea, to the notion that, we all need to be the marketing and PR department at Free Speech TV. Because there isn't one there, and we need to be it, right? And that's you and me and, everything we can do on Facebook and Twitter and talking to our neighbors and wearing this t-shirt. Ask Me About Free Speech TV. Or your choice of one of 3 books. My book on the hidden history of the war on voting, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Killed the American Dream, or Greg Palast's book, How Donald Trump Stole 2020. And, they're all great books. So that's with a $120 gift, your choice of one of those 3 books. With a $240 gift, we've got 2 virtual meet and greets that are going to happen this month, or in the next 2 months. The first is October 14th, and the second is November 18th, just a week after our wedding anniversary, in fact. And we'll meet on Zoom, and you and me and a few other people. Typically, it's 10, 15 people, something like that, and we get together, and you can ask whatever you want, and I'll tell you what I really think. So, it's not recorded or anything. It's just a contemporaneous conversation. And with a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box, which includes the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Democracy sticker, the Free Speech TV tote bag, the Democracy postcards, and a copy of my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland and hang out with us, but that might be a while, but you can still give a $1,000 gift. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 8669. Thank you. The Hidden History of the Supreme Court tells the story of Nixon and Reagan's committing treason to steal the White House. So what if Donald Trump loses the election and decides that he's going to punish America for not being sufficiently loyal to him, for not loving him, for not reelecting him? And so he has, Jerome Powell, his hand-picked successor to the, as the new chair of the Fed, who has created $7 trillion out of thin air and used much of it to buy stocks and bonds to prop up the bond market. That's 1/3 of the entire nation's entire annual gross domestic product. What if he orders Powell to stop supporting the stock and bond markets between November 3rd and January 20th? The bottom would fall out of the market. The bottom would fall out of the housing market as well, particularly if inflation started going up, which Powell has already indicated he's going to let happen. And the country would be thrown into something worse than the Republican Great Depression of the 1930s. Is it possible? Well, we've got a video talking about that for the supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And let's see here. Rick in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Hey, Rick, what's on your mind today?
Well, I'll tell you what's on my mind. I have gotten several mailings requesting me to vote by mail. Well, the curious part about it is, if you check who the source is, it seems to be some Republican entity. Like one's called the House Republican Council Committee. So I think, well, is this really legitimate? So I called my county courthouse, and they are legitimate. But why would some Republican entity send me 3 or 4 requests to vote by mail when Donald Trump is against it?
Because they think you're a Republican. Trump is out talking about mail because he's trying to cause us not to believe in the integrity of our own electoral system. But he's actually, the Republican Party all over the country is sending mailers out to people that they believe are registered Republicans, asking them to register to vote by mail, particularly people who might be over 50 years old. And so, somehow you got on one of those mailing lists, Rick, but literally millions of Americans have gotten letters from various Republican groups, typically saying, here's a voter registration form, send it into the county registrar, and by the way, send us a check or send us your name or, donate to our cause as well. And that's what's going on. Rick, thanks for the call and the heads up on that. Pam in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, Pam, what's up?
Oh, hi, Tom. Thank you. This week, there's so much kind of earth-shattering news, and yet, I'm having these interactions on social media that lead me to believe it's not like just two separate countries people are living in with the media spin, but it's almost like two different planets. Recently, I posted something about the comments that he made about veterans, and I had two people, one a relative and one an old classmate who live in different areas, push back really strongly, really sure that was fake news, and that we should just educate ourselves better. And I'm like, what? They're both college-educated women. Where are they getting that? I couldn't find anything on the media that I look up or in a brief.
What
Google
did they
search.
think was fake news?
The comments about veterans being losers and that kind of thing.
Oh, Trump's comments.
Yeah. So the only thing I see was denial. Do people believe that? I don't get it.
Yeah, they're apparently not reading their local newspaper or any of the national newspapers. They're probably getting their news from Facebook, and which is, by the way, the case for 30-40% of Americans, depending on whose numbers you're looking at. And that's not a good source of news. I mean, that's what's going on. These guys are very convincing. Whether it's coming out of the Russian troll factories or a Saudi troll factory or a God only knows, right? Seth Abramson has identified at least 4 different countries that are pouring pro-Trump propaganda into the United States, and did in 2016 with the knowledge and assistance of the Trump campaign. So, your friends are just basically victims of a brainwashing and disinformation campaign. And I don't know what can be done beyond that, other than maybe sending them some articles, actual Washington Post, New York Times articles. Although they'll probably say, oh, yeah, that's Jeff Bezos' paper, and, you can't trust a billionaire. But they do trust billionaire Rupert Murdoch and Fox News. We've got a serious problem in this country with the corruption of news for profit.
Yeah.
And it's just
stop the crisis. Yeah. Sorry. We've got these important issues, the climate crisis and everything else, and they're getting misinformed about all of it every step of the way. It's scary to me.
Yeah, and this has been, the rise of this really was in the early 2000s around Bush and Cheney selling us the Iraq War, which was a lie, selling us be afraid after 9/11, we need to spy on everybody in America, which was a lie. 9/11 was not a lie, but using it to produce what Ed Snowden revealed, this huge national security state that's totally unconstitutional, and now it's like increasingly people are just not, and then the whole sales pitch that Obamacare was going to throw America into socialism and there were death panels and they were going to be killing grandma. I mean, these were all lies. And I think that people at a certain point either say, okay, I'm going to surrender myself to the red pill, or I'm going to wake up. And your friends apparently have surrendered themselves. Pam, I got to move along, but thank you. I wish you the very best. Good luck, straightening these folks out. Larry in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Hey, Larry, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. 2 questions. Number one, I think what's going to happen if the election is close on November 3rd or Trump is losing, either way, he is going to, by decree, invalidate all mail-in ballots nationwide. No, they're all fraudulent. It's a hoax.
Yeah, except he doesn't have the power to do that, Larry. The elections are run by the states.
I think he's just going to seize the power. And let me finish. What's going to happen is our side is going to pour into the streets. Some of it will be violent. His people are going to pour into the streets. There will be clashes. Blood will be shed on November 4th. I guarantee it. and he'll declare martial law, and he'll dissolve Congress. So here's question number one: who's going to stop him? He's got 40% of the country, not just solidly, but rabidly behind him. You saw the Latrobe rally where the people coming out of there in Latrobe, Pennsylvania said, we are taking up arms against these socialists. We're going to make sure that these Democrats are wiped out.
It's pretty ugly. I mean, go ahead.
And the second question is, and it has to do with those followers. Let's say Biden wins and we win the Senate, which I think there's a pretty good chance of both those things happening. I think Biden can still pull the Electoral College out. Then we're going to have the right-wing people pouring in, the Trump followers pouring into the streets. What's going to happen then? How do we bring peace to that situation?
Well, Trump will still be president when that happens, which means that he'll probably leverage it into something really, really bad. But Larry, I know that we've all imagined these worst case dystopian scenarios, these Kristallnacht type of scenarios, and maybe even a Night of the Long Knives, where Trump just does a major purge in all the government institutions, just leaving remnants for Joe Biden. Or tries to hang on to power. We cannot allow ourselves to be paralyzed by this. It's going to play out however it plays out, and we need to be ready for it. But I'm just not going to go beyond that. Larry, thanks for the call. Debbie in Woodbridge, Virginia. Hey, Debbie, what's up?
Hi there. I am here in Woodbridge, Virginia, and discovered a lot of people don't know you can vote 45 days earlier. I actually have 3 signs that I've laminated on my car windows that say vote early in person in Virginia. It has the dates, and I actually put on the bottom all of the locations and the dates that you can vote at these places. And I made bookmarks. And
that's great.
A couple of weeks ago.
So voting is happening right now in Virginia, Debbie?
September 18th to the 31st.
September 18th.
I went to my dentist. Yep, and I went to my dentist last week. I was wearing my Democrat mask. She had no idea that you could do that. I run around with a handful of these bookmarks on each side. It's on one side it says where you can vote, and even has PWC votes. That's plural.org, and it has that on it. On the other side, it has the dates and places that you can vote and the times. And she didn't know. I gave her a handful. I was just at a stoplight. Woman was trying to read she was reading the sign. I had her roll down her window. I gave her a handful of the cards. So
Debbie, you are a true American patriot.
Knowing it. Yeah. I was at Costco a couple of weeks ago. A woman comes running up. She's like, "Oh, I was going to put this little Post-it note on your car that these signs are great." So little things count.
Yeah, they do.
We need to get,
and that's why I keep saying, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, make your opinions known on social media. This is the time now to and do it without corrosive or angry language. Debbie, thank you. Thank you so much. You truly are an American patriot. This is what it takes. Well-intentioned, good people doing, opening up democracy. I mean, Debbie's telling Republicans when to vote as well as Democrats. That's a good thing. We want people to participate in our democracy. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with your calls in just a moment as we head toward the end of the show here today. Stick around. And welcome back. Jim in Chicago. Hey, Jim, thanks for listening on the Thom Hartmann app. What's up?
Hey, Tom, love the show. My husband and I listen to it every day, so thanks for all you do. I had a quick question. So let's say, God willing, Joe Biden wins in November, and the scenario happens that we talked about before, where Donald Trump resigns and, Mike Pence goes in for the pardon. Is it possible for him to even pardon him if he hasn't been charged with federal crime?
That's what Jerry Ford did with Richard Nixon. Yeah, there was no criminal charge against Richard Nixon at all, and the impeachment charges had been drafted, but they had not been dropped. So Nixon was scot-free when Jerry Ford pardoned him, and he pardoned him for any crime he may have committed prior to that date, and which included the the milk industry bribery. It included the Jimmy Hoffa bribery. It included. I'd have to go through the Santos Trafficante bribery. It included, any crimes Nixon made, and they just stopped all investigations of Nixon at that point, federally. Wow. And there was no state AG. I mean, Nixon he was universally disliked, and I think there was a sense of distaste among the American people, but he wasn't hated the way that Donald Trump is. Donald Trump evokes two emotions, either absolute loyalty and love, or absolute disgust and in some cases hate. And so at that point in time, if any state attorney general were to do what Letitia James is doing in New York and say, okay, I'm going to go, even though Nixon got a pardon from Jerry Ford, I'm going to try and take him down here in California because he committed crimes in California too. There was no attorney general willing to do that back then, because the sense of the country was, okay, he was a bad guy, he got busted, let's move along, let's move forward. And Jerry Ford is a good and decent Republican, as good as you can get, and so we're gonna pass some legislation to prevent this from ever happening again, which they did, and the Supreme Court struck it down 3 years later, but they did. But I don't think it's going to play out that way this time. I think this time the way that it's going to play out is going to be really, really ugly. And the idea that Michael Cohen has floated of Donald Trump resigning with a deal that Mike Pence will pardon him, going to be real interesting to watch and see how that plays out. But I don't know, Jim, if how the American people are going to respond to this.
Right. I think what you said, we just can't be paralyzed by it. We've got to remain strong and resilient. Yeah. Despair is not an option, and neither is bloodshed. I mean, these kind of two opposite poles of just saying, oh, screw it, and giving up and going away, or showing up in the streets with a gun. Neither one of those are viable options. We need to keep persistently, regularly, enthusiastically, outspokenly, being somewhat upbeat. I mean, let's acknowledge the challenges we're facing, but looking for ways to make the best out of it, and B, being activists. Getting out there and voting and telling our friends to vote and how to vote and everything else. This is what we've got to do. Jim, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's it's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, exposing the con in conservative. We'll be right back. On the Science Revolution this week, the impact of the pandemic on Trump's refusal to acknowledge science or join the World Health Organization's backed Vaccine Cooperation Pact. It's harming Americans as Trump brings the con into the pandemic. Dr. Bandy Lee is here on the science of hate mongering. Is Donald Trump's hate contagious? Ellie Zupnik drops by about another broken promise on drug pricing from Donald Trump as the August 24th deadline comes and goes. Plus, Kevin Patel is here on the pollution from wildfires. Tune into the Science Revolution wherever fine podcasts are found. Whoa. Some major explosion just went off here, or earthquake or something. It was just a loud boom. The house shook, and then I could hear it echoing off the distance. Oh, we'll find out what happened. Anyhow, Sean says she could hear it over in the studio too. Amazing stuff. Chris in Utica, New York. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to let folks know about the voting method in New York State. And for instance, I applied for a absentee ballot. I did so for the general election and also for the primary election. And I chose to, after receiving the ballot, to vote in person anyway, because I felt safe enough. But New York State has a method of comparing signatures to your original signature when you register to make sure that...
It's called biometrics.
Right.
It's the main way that we've done election security. And it's actually harder to fake a signature than it is to buy a phony ID. The whole ID thing from the Republicans over the last 20 years is just complete BS. Anyhow, back to you, Chris.
So basically, and I call the Board of Elections here in New York all the time because things have changed frequently until our governor decided how we're going to run this. But even if you voted by mail and then you decided to vote in person, they will check those records and see that you voted twice and destroy one of them. So they're not calling the feds in any way because it's they're ensuring that there's no double voting for that person.
Yeah, I don't think that there was any double voting in Georgia. You've got a Secretary of State. I mean, when Brian Kemp was Secretary of State, you'll recall he was making charges against Democrats too, and they turned out to be complete BS. He was lying through his teeth, and I think this guy's lying through his teeth too. I don't see it happening. But it is part of a Republican campaign to cause Americans to believe that our electoral system is not to be trusted. And they want us to believe that because they're going to say this fall, hey, we didn't really lose the election. It was stolen from us. And, Trump is just preparing the ground for that. And he's got, these insanely corrupt Republicans like Brian Kemp and the Secretary of State, and now the new Secretary of State in Georgia, just going along with him. I mean, and they're doing it for their own political survival because the American people have, we've figured out the game. And, they've been running this game for the better part of 25 years, really aggressively, purging people off the voting rolls and all these other shenanigans. And it's only in the last couple of years that the Democratic Party has finally gotten the cojones to call them out on it. Thank God, finally. And Stacey Abrams and other groups out there saying, here's what's going on. So, yeah. Chris, thanks for the heads up on that. And it's good to know that it works for you in New York. VK in Fort Worth, Texas. Hey, VK, what's up?
You mentioned in a previous call in this hour that the Supreme Court agreed to the Republican schedule after the election for the Obamacare lawsuit. Do you think that?
Correct.
What do you think will be the outcome of that decision? And if Biden and the Democrats win the Senate and the presidency, can they quickly save Obamacare?
This is one of those things that might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. If the Supreme Court rules, first of all, it'll be after the election. So, and I think that was because John Roberts didn't want this issue of Trump and the Republicans want to take away your health care to be front and center in the election. John Roberts is a Republican and has been his whole life. He's just a stooge, for these guys. But if the Supreme Court says, no, yes, Obamacare is just fine, then, number one, it has raised the issue and it might give Biden some extra steam to say, okay, Obamacare is good, but, the Supreme Court has, poked some holes in it. So let's come up with the public option, which is what Biden has been pushing all along. And the only reason we don't have it really is because of Joe Lieberman, and all the Republicans. On the other hand, if the Supreme Court says, okay, we'll go along with what Donald Trump and 20 Republican state governors and attorneys general want, and we will cancel Obamacare so that the insurance companies can go back to having lifetime caps on you, and they can say, oh, you have a pre-existing condition. We're not going to pay for that as you're being wheeled into surgery. If they take us back to that, then actually I think that sets the stage for Medicare for all. So my sense of it is that probably regardless of what the Supreme Court says, we're going to win, even if Trump wins over the short term. But, time will tell. Those are my thoughts on that. VK, thanks for the call. Dolores in Lake Bay, Washington. Hey, Dolores, you got the last minute. What's up?
I just wanted to tell people, if you're trying to figure out how to help, we took your advice, 2 old 80-year-olds, and we called Indivisible. They have sent us a packet. We filled out all these postcards that they're sending out, and we both felt like we finally were doing something. So if you're looking for something to do to help our cause, let's go call one of those places. You don't have to sit idle.
Yep, indivisible.org is a great organization. Dolores, God bless you. Thank you. That you are a true American patriot, and you are absolutely right. It feels good it feels like, empowering to take control of things and do something. Good on you, Dolores. Thank you so much for the call too, and thanks for watching us on Free Speech TV. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It doesn't work without you. It will work with you. So get out there, make sure your voter registration is solid and that of everyone you know. Tag You're It. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!